Hi everyone, please subscribe to my channel. Blood Immortal. See playlist for other chapters and novels. Join now our Telegram channel now and enjoy exclusive early access. t.me/blood_immortal_official. I do not translate the novels. Credits goes to original translator and author of the novel. I only make it as an audiobook so it would be easier to just listen while doing other things. Credits goes to the author of the novel. I convert stories to audiobook for mental health, for multitasking purpose, for accessibility and time saving. Listening to audiobook is also beneficial for people who have disability. It improves our listening skills and improve our English comprehension, vocabulary and other things. So, thank you for listening. Thank you and thank you very much for your support. Chapter 401. Don't Insult My Family Technique. Chapter 401. Don't Insult My Family Technique. Oh well, now that teacher is back, I have naturally something big I wish to attend to. It'll be troubling for me to bring you along with me. How about this? Go and look for your fellow classmates. Once I'm done with my stuff, I'll look for you guys. In front of his student, Lin Fan naturally had to show his disposition as a teacher. Yes, don't worry teacher. I'll go and look for all of them. Cao Tianzhao nodded his head excitedly. If they knew that their teacher was back, all of them would definitely be really excited. Back then, their teacher had left suddenly without saying goodbye. They didn't even know what had happened. Not long later, the incident in the Great Yan dynasty happened. After escaping from the dynasty, all of them had to wander as destitutes outside, suffering the cruelty of the world. Okay, Lin Fan nodded his head. Gently raising his hand, he tore a gap in the void and left. By now, all the juniors of Kai Tianzhao were completely dumbfounded. They had not dared to speak a single word in front of Lin Fan, only listening with a respectful face. After Lin Fan left and they calmed their nerves, they began to clamor excitedly. Senior brother, why have you never mentioned that you had such a powerful teacher? That's right, not only is he young, isn't his power level just way too frightening? He was so scary. Let's not even begin to talk about his disposition. One look and one can definitely tell that he's someone extraordinary and peerless. That palm strike just now, that was simply awesome. I doubt even greater celestial beings can be that strong. It felt as though the entire sky was about to collapse. Listening to the praises of his juniors, Kai Tianzhao's mouth twitched slightly with a look of pride. Of course, that's my teacher for you. Let me tell you guys. Back then, I and my classmates were the ones with the lowest potential within the entire school. 2 years ago, my cultivation state was only that of a precelestial. It was only with the guidance of my teacher that my cultivation state could leap so far. Kai Tianzhao's mood was much more pleasant right now. Ah, that can't be right. Senior brother, you were only a post-celestial when you had entered the sect back then. With your current cultivation state right now, wasn't it all due to your own hard work? A junior brother disagreed with him. That's right, the others nodded in agreement that it was due to his own hard work. Looking at all of them, the look of gratitude flooded Kai Tianzhao's face once more. He swept his robes and looked up into the distant sky. You guys don't understand. If you don't say, how would we understand? Please tell us. That's right, that's right. Kai Tianzhao smiled and shook his head. You guys don't understand. Single quote. Single quote. Everyone else. Lin Fan had not expected the first person he would bump into upon returning to Kangling Continent to be an ex-student of his. That was nice. It had been 2 years. He should go and have a look. The place where Saint Devil sect used to be, he wondered how it was right now. Or perhaps, some people might have already taken over it. Lin Fan's eyes were cold right now. Now that he was back, there was no way he would be satisfied without causing a hell of a ruckus. Otherwise, he would be letting himself down for the past 2 years of suffering. With that, a figure darted across the sky. The place which Saint Devil sect used to occupy was a prosperous piece of land where feng shui was plentiful. Even though there were barely any structures left after that massive war, there were still many people who eyed it. And right now, that place was occupied by Chengkin sect. After that great war, the 9 sects had split up the wealth of Saint Devil sect equally. With that, this entire place was given to Chengkin sect. The place where Chengkin sect was situated initially was a pretty decent place. However, they coveted this place where Saint Devil sect was. After Saint Devil sect's destruction, the Grand Master of Chengkin sect ordered their entire sect to move over to this location. Chengkin sect's training grounds. Countless of disciples were training tirelessly. A series of loud grunts rang through the sky, as all the disciples were hard at training up. A figure glided through the entire training grounds like a dragon. He was emanating hot air consistently, as though his body was filled with boiling water. Tiger's roar. A Chenkin sect disciple filled with vigor landed a punch on a motionless person standing there. Bam! A dull thud rang out, accompanied by a loud cry. The person who was struck collapsed onto the ground while spitting out blood. His eyes were filled with hatred. HMPH, trash. Can't even take a punch. The Chenkin sect disciple looked coldly at the punching bag who was sent flying, and his lips curled in disdain. The surrounding Chenkin sect disciples gathered and laughed. Hey, senior brother. These bunch of punching bags that are leftovers from the old Saint Devil sect. How can they still spit out blood after training their titanium-grade demon body for such a long time? What a bunch of weebs. Why's the Grand Master even keeping them alive? Oh, that's something you guys don't understand. The Grand Master mentioned that cultivation requires one to have practical fighting experience. These guys used to be punching bags of Saint Devil sect, and they've trained the lowest possible skill of physical body strengthening. Even though it's pretty useless, they won't die that easily. Especially when that titanium-grade demon body is trained to its peak, they can take quite the beating. Oh, so that's the case. Seems like these punching bags of the Saint Devil sect are still pretty useful, Well, we've killed quite a few in the past 2 years. These are the only ones left. Senior brother, you've got to hold it in. Leave some of them for us. Haha, of course, of course. The Chenkin sect disciple laughed maniacally. He looked the punching bag viciously. Why? You're indignant. All of you punching bags from Saint Devil sect are a bunch of trashes. Some of the remaining punching bags from Saint Devil sect looked at these Chenkin sect disciples with a raging fire. But what could they do? They were only alive right now under their mercy. Even though they were punching bags back in Saint Devil sect, they would still be left with some dignity and mercy. However, these Chenkin sect disciples were more vicious than the other. None of them took them as human beings. During that battle back then, they were nothing but punching bags who could do nothing. Eventually, they were captured as slaves after Saint Devil sect was destroyed. They thought that they might be spared by these sects. To think that the Chenkin sect Grand Master would have an eye on them and keep them alive just to be punching bags for his disciples. Wang Xiaoliu gripped his fists tightly. Looking at his fellow punching bags from Saint Devil sect, he gritted his teeth. Even though he feared death in his heart, he had enough. I've had enough. I want to challenge you. Fine, I'll acknowledge being Saint Devil sect's punching bag. But to be punching bags for you guys? I can't take that anymore. What else can you do to me other than kill me? I ain't afraid. Wang Xiaoliu lashed out at that Chenkin sect disciple. Ha 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 ha. No, vel, b, in dot c, ohm. All the surrounding Chenkin sect disciples burst out laughing. This guy was just courting his own death. To think that he would even think of resisting at this point. What a joke. Xiaoliu. Within the past few years, the relationship of these punching bags had grown even stronger. They had thought of resisting earlier on, but this was the enemy's territory. What could they even do? Looking at Xiaoliu resisting for them, their hearts began to worry. Oh, you, what do you know? You want to beat us with your titanium-grade demon body? The Chenkin sect disciple burst out laughing wildly. He flexed his muscles, causing one to feel intimidated by them. Wang Xiaoliu ground his teeth. With my family technique. Ha 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 ha. Everyone started laughing once more, as though they had heard the funniest joke in the entire world. Family technique? What a bloody damned joke. Come, I'll see just what sort of dog's tea family technique you have. I'll fight you. Don't insult my family technique. With a holler, Wang Xiaoliu darted towards the Chenkin sect disciple. Ha ha ha. Looking at this punching bag who couldn't even muster a proper stance, all the disciples started jeering. In their eyes, trash would always be trash. Family technique. Joke. What a joke. Chapter 402. Start shivering. Chapter 402. Start shivering. HMPH, since you want to die. Your father shall grant you your wish. Looking at Wang Xiaoliu, who was dashing towards him, the Chenkin sect disciple gripped his fists with his blood pumping. Wang Xiaoliu's face was resolute as he gritted his teeth. Even though his titanium-grade demon body was already at its peak state, he knew that he was no match for this disciple before him. But, so what? No matter what, he would pit his life against this person. Bam! As the punch landed on Wang Xiaoliu's chest, the energy spread out violently. The Chenkin sect disciple smirked. This punch would definitely take his life. But at this moment, he was shocked to find out that even though Wang Xiaoliu has taken his punch, he was still gripping on tightly to the Chenkin sect disciple's wrist like a fly that didn't know its place. HMPH, know your place. The Chenkin sect disciple hollered out. To think that this punching bag was thinking of retaliating. How brazen. Hee hee. Wang Xiaoliu glared at this man fixedly, spurting a mouthful of fresh blood. He then laughed out sinisterly. How dare you laugh at my family technique? I'll show you. Suddenly, Wang Xiaoliu's hand reached out. Monkey steals peaches. Even though it was a simple move, this was Wang Xiaoliu's family's special technique. Once upon a time, Wang Xiaoliu's family was a distinguished one who specialized in monkey steals peaches. In the end, they fell from grace. The reason behind the fall should be due to the fact that there were no descendants who could properly grasp the essence of monkey steals peaches. Looking at the situation, the Chenkin sect disciple was startled momentarily before shouting out angrily, "How dare you employ such despicable moves?" Wang Xiaoliu's face changed. He had not expected the other party to react to this. Bam! The Chenkin sect disciple sent a kick flying towards Wang Xiaoliu's chest. In that instant, Wang Xiaoliu was sent flying with blood spraying out of his mouth. Ugh! Wang Xiaoliu laid on the ground. His face was dazed with a look of disbelief. How could he see through it? I thought I've clearly mastered the essence of my family technique. Looking at the pitiful state of Wang Xiaoliu, all the surrounding punching bags shuddered in fear. This was no good. There was definitely going to be a tragedy. HMPH, trash. You dare to claim that such a despicable move is your family's secret technique? What a bloody big joke. The Chenkin sect disciple laughed wildly. Lying on the ground, Wang Xiaoliu gripped his fists tightly. How could his family technique be trash? His family had grown to power in the past just because of that. HMPH, looking at a useless punching bag like that makes me angry. Whack him. If he dies, throw him out to feed the dogs. Yes. Instantly, a bunch of Chenkin sect disciples surrounded Wang Xiaoliu and rained punches and kicks on him. Wang Xiaoliu curled up into a ball, enduring the beating silently. He wanted to retaliate, but his hands were still quivering. At this moment, he finally felt the fear of death. Just as they were whacking him, a torn and tattered blue book fell out from Wang Xiaoliu's chest. A sharp-eyed Chenkin sect disciple picked it up before he burst out laughing. Ha ha, hey guys, take a look. This is his so-called family technique, monkey steals peaches. Looking at the time-worn and tattered cover, everyone burst out laughing frantically. Return it to me, Wang Xiaoliu howled out in anger. Rip, that disciple took the book in front of Wang Xiaoliu and shredded into pieces right in his face. What a joke, family technique, a deplorable move as such would only be considered as a treasure by trash like you. N-O-V-E in .c ohm. Wang Xiaoliu gripped his fists. It's not trash. It's trash. All the Chenkin sect disciples jeered. It's not. Wang Xiaoliu stood up and looked at everyone with reddened eyes. Looking at his eyes, the masses were startled for a moment. Recovering from the astonishment, that embarrassment turned into rage. A trash is a trash. Bloody punching bag. Speak any more and I shall rip out your tongue. Wang Xiaoliu looked at these Chenkin sect disciples and his heart shuddered. Looking at the shredded pieces on the floor, his heart was equally shredded. He truly wanted to reply that it was not trash. However, he was filled with fear right now. If you don't want to die, you better repeat after me. My family technique is trash. The fierce-looking Chenkin sect disciple glared at Wang Xiaoliu, toying with him. Wang Xiaoliu was at a loss right now. Shing! A sharp blade appeared in the Chenkin sect disciple's hand. It was as though the only outcome for Wang Xiaoliu if he did not repeat those words was death. Brother Xiaoliu, say it. The other punching bags urged him hurriedly. Listening to the voices of the masses, Wang Xiaoliu's heart was in a mess right now. Hurry up and say it. Otherwise, I'll slice off your head clean. The Chenkin sect disciple hollered viciously. Wang Xiaoliu gripped his fists tightly. This was the skill that was handed down by his ancestors. It represented the most glorious moments of his family's history. Wang Xiaoliu could not help but recall his father's final words before he died, Xiaoliu. Xiaoliu, monkey steals peaches is the core of our family. You must do well to comprehend the essence of it so that you do not bring shame to its name. ... Shing. Suddenly, the sharp blade had found its way to Wang Xiaoliu's neck. The razor-edged sword aura sliced at Xiaoliu's neck. If he did not say it, the next second, his head would roll on the ground. Xiaoliu was totally lost right now. His heart was in a state of despair. He closed his eyes gently. He had decided, even if he were to die right now, he wouldn't say it. It's not trash. Suddenly, a loud voice permeated from the sky above. Everyone was stunned, wondering what happened. Wang Xiaoliu opened his eyes as well, searching for the source of the voice. When he looked up into the sky, he saw a figure floating there. However, the scorching sunlight was piercing his eyes, so he couldn't make out the figure floating there properly. Monkey steals peaches is an extremely powerful skill. If that skill is trash, then every other skill in this world is trash. Lin Fan floated in the air. Looking at the scene of the people bullied below, he couldn't help but recall back those memories of the past. Big bro, this is my family technique. You're the genius amongst us, big bro. You must fight on for us. Taking Lin Fan as a hero, Wang Xiaoliu had handed over his family technique easily to Lin Fan. Back then, Lin Fan was filled with gratitude. He swore to himself, when I come to dominate the world one day, I will ensure your success. That was the promise that Lin Fan had made to Wang Xiaoliu back then. Even though Wang Xiaoliu did not reply, Lin Fan could tell that the other party had not thought this far, nor he took his words entirely to heart. Now that he was the strongest in Xuanwang world, someone who could suppress every single being, it was time for him to fulfill that promise. Wang Xiaoliu looked up at the man in the sky. This was the first time he had heard anyone say that his family technique wasn't a piece of trash. As such, he was really emotional right now. Yet, he couldn't make out the features of the other party. Lin Fan gradually descended. As Wang Xiaoliu slowly made out the features of the other party, his face slowly turned into one of disbelief. He would never forget that face. This face, it reminded him of that man. Xiaoliu, seems like we're truly fated, Lin Fan's mouth curled into a smile. Big bro, Wang Xiaoliu shuddered emotionally. He had not expected the other party to be his ex-punching bag comrade, Lin Fan. Back then, Lin Fan had the balls to fight against the disciples of the sect. With that, he earned everyone's respect. Wang Xiaoliu took out his family technique and handed it to him. And with that, he recognized this man as a big brother. Chapter 403, How could he have not known something so simple? Chapter 403, How could he have not known something so simple? Fret not, little brother. Lin Fan smiled calmly, stretching out his hand and motioning for them to not feel worried. Regarding Monkey Steals Peaches, Lin Fan was filled with gratitude towards Wang Xiaoliu. After all, if Wang Xiaoliu had not given him the skill so selflessly, Lin Fan's path to greatness would not have been this smooth. This was a really sick skill. Even sick was an understatement for it. All these years, Lin Fan had managed to gain the upper hand in countless situations just because of it. As for why Wang Xiaoliu had yet to comprehend the essence of it, Lin Fan was puzzled as well. Perhaps, this skill was truly handcrafted for someone just like Lin Fan. Right now, the other punching bags from Saint Devil sect looked at this man curiously. He looked pretty familiar, yet they could not really remember who he was. Even though Lin Fan was pretty famous in the punching bag gang back in Saint Devil sect, not everyone knew about him. No.c.om. Furthermore, there were quite a number of punching bags who were killed mercilessly by these Chenkin sect disciples in the past 2 years. With that, there was practically nothing left of the punching bag gang. Who are you? The Chenkin sect disciple glared at Lin Fan coldly. He had not expected this man to be an acquaintance of these punching bags. That was weird. Xiaoliu, did this sect take part in the annihilation of Saint Devil sect back then? Ignoring that Chenkin sect disciple, Lin Fan asked Xiaoliu directly. Yes, they are Chenkin sect. Wang Xiaoliu replied hurriedly. The moment Xiaoliu finished his words, the Chenkin sect disciple's face turned cold. With a loud holler, he darted forward, wanting to slice off Xiaoliu's head. HMPH. Looking at the brazen act of this disciple, Lin Fan snorted loudly. He disappeared from where he was and retrieved a specially crafted glove. Monkey steals peaches. Everything happened at lightning speed. No one ever saw what had happened. All they saw was the Chenkin sect disciple lying on the ground, his hands covering his crotch while wailing. To this disciple, life was extremely bleak right now. The only thing he could feel was the swelling pain of his nugget surging up his head. Xiaoliu, back then, you handed me the ultimate move of Monkey Steals Peaches. Today, I shall demonstrate to you just how powerful your skill is. Lin Fan had wanted to slap the other party to death. But right now, he had a change of mind. He felt that he ought to give Wang Xiaoliu some hope. For the past few generations, no one in Wang Xiaoliu's family had comprehended the essence of Monkey Steals Peaches. As such, his family had fallen from their graceful position in society. If Lin Fan didn't glorify Monkey Steals Peaches once more, Wang Xiaoliu might truly lose all hope in this family technique of his. Now that Lin Fan had even evolved Monkey Steel's peaches to twisting heaven and earth, the benefits were countless. But one must not forget the roots of Monkey Steel's peaches. Alright then, today, Lin Fan would use it and display the most potent side of Monkey Steel's peaches. Wang Xiaoliu looked at Lin Fan blankly. He had not expected Big Bro to actually deploy Monkey Steel's peaches against the enemy. By now, Wang Xiaoliu had an urge to cry out emotionally. He had always believed that his family technique was really strong. However, the fact that no one in his family had comprehended it for a few generations had caused the outside world to view this skill as nothing but deplorable. But through Big Bro, he could finally see hope. Looking at the Chenkin sect disciple who was groveling on the ground, a weird sensation filled Wang Xiaoliu's heart. Was this the true power of Monkey Steel's peaches? Xiaoliu, Monkey Steel's peaches is a heaven-defying skill. With it, you can negate all defenses and cause the other party to feel an immense pain. Lin Fan explained coolly. Wang Xiaoliu looked at Lin Fan silently. He then looked at the Chenkin sect disciple once more and got excited. So, this was indeed the power of his family technique, Monkey Steel's peaches. Incredible. Looking at the scene before them, all the other Chenkin sect disciples retreated slightly in fear. The state of their senior brother sent a chill down their spines. What a vicious move, arg, it hurts. The disciple howled at the top of his lungs. His initially flushed red face was now pale as a sheet. In fact, even the thought of suicide crossed his mind right now. It was a feeling like he would die if he didn't continue to hold on to his crotch. Painful, absolutely painful. This was a pain no one could endure at all. Just who is this little junior who has come to my Chenkin sect to be so insolent? Just then, a few figures appeared on the training grounds. Grandmaster, Elder. Looking at these figures, Lin Fan curled into a cold smile. Especially that Grandmaster, that was a face that Lin Fan would never forget for the rest of his life. Who are you? Qian Kunzi looked at this young man. He then looked at his disciple who was quivering on the floor before frowning and hollering. Seeing Qian Kunzi's arrival, Wang Xiaoliu and the other punching bags could not help but shiver in fear. They were thoroughly afraid from the bottom of their hearts. This was an extremely scary man. At the same time, Wang Xiaoliu and the others could not help but worry. They knew that their big bro had gotten way stronger in these past 2 years. But even then, he might not be the match of Qian Kunzi just yet. Grandmaster, why are you wasting your breath on him? How dare this intruder step foot into Chenkin sect? Let's just take him down. A slightly bald elder remarked. Ho, since when was this Chenkin sect's place? This is the Saint Devil sect. Lin Fan glared at Qian Kunzi. A fiery flame was raging within Lin Fan's heart. However, he soothed it down. It would be a waste to let the other party die an easy death. He would take his time to torment this person. This person must know what it was like to experience it. The Lin's style of torment. The moment Lin Fan finished his words, the face of Qian Kunzi changed. Who exactly are you? Even though 2 whole years had passed, these people from Chenkin sect still had an uneasy feeling. Looking carefully at Lin Fan, Qian Kunzi jolted for a second, as though he had recalled something. It's you, that B*****************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************�e That's me all right, Lin Fan laughed helplessly. The god blood is on you. Qian Kunzi's face froze up before laughing out wildly. You had a way out of all these, yet you chose to ignore that and come down back to hell once more. I've been searching for you for the past 2 years. To think that you would turn up on my doorsteps on your own. Amazing. Seems like I hadn't wasted all my efforts. The moment he heard the words, God blood, Lin Fan's blood boiled. Even though he had already absorbed the god blood, he did not know what its effects were. Hence, it was almost as though there had been no effect on him. However, it was all because of this god blood that the entire Saint Devil sect was destroyed. Damn it, how was that worth it? Qian Kunzi sized Lin Fan up properly. His aura was practically non-existent. Seemed like he couldn't have gotten that strong after all. In the past 2 years, all 9 great sects had expended all their efforts into looking for him. However, it was as though he had disappeared from the entire face of this world. Seemed like that old fogey from Saint Devil sect still had some tricks up his sleeves to be able to hide someone so deeply and thoroughly. Big bro. Wang Xiaoliu was worried. Lin Fan waved his hand in nonchalance. Smiling and stepping up slightly, he continued, that's right, I'm here right at your doorsteps now, Grandmaster Chenkin. Why, are you thinking of killing me? Qian Kunzi looked at Lin Fan and burst out laughing, as long as you're obedient, I'll promise you get to keep your life. To Qian Kunzi, this lad was a trash 2 years ago. Even if he met some sort of miracle in the past 2 years, how strong could he have gotten? Naturally, Qian Kunzi wasn't worried in the least bit. But just then, a loud voice boomed out. Monkey steals peaches. Arg! Everyone's jaws dropped to the ground, unable to believe the scene that was happening right before them. The gleeful look on Qian Kunzi's face had turned ever more tragic. It was as though the most dreadful thing in his life had just happened. Hands at his crotch, he squatted down in slow motion. This tragic and sorrowful cry rang out across the entire Chenkin sect. This was a melancholic wail. There was nothing in this world that could compare to the morose tone of this cry. Lin Fan was unbothered in the least bit by the state of Qian Kunzi. He turned around slowly and looked at Wang Xiaoliu. Did you see that? The essence of monkey steals peaches is for you to not rush headstrong in. You've got to wait till the enemy is unprepared. Stretch out, pull, and give it a good rumbling. Of course, for the sake of your health, you've got to prepare some gloves or the likes. Who knows what sort of diseases dirty, stinky old men like these have. Looking at everything, Wang Xiaoliu could only nod his head blankly. Daddy, our family's monkey steals peaches has finally been glorified. Even the Grand Master of a great sect has fallen prey to it. Wang Xiaoliu looked up into the sky as 2 streams of hot tears poured down his face freely. This was a demonstration of his emotions. At the same time, he finally began to understand the essence of monkey steals peaches. Shifty and opportunistic, that was the way to go about it. Something as easy as such, how could he have taken so long to understand? Chapter 404, Heaven-Piercing Treasure Aura. Chapter 404, Heaven-Piercing Treasure Aura. It had been a long time since Lin Fan had used monkey steals peaches, or even twisting heaven and earth for that matter of fact. After all, these were skills that disrupted the balance of heaven and earth really intensely. And, the most crucial point was that he already had the true Origin's crushing kick right now. Hence, there was no need for him to intentionally resort to twisting heaven and earth. However, for the sake of allowing Wang Xiaoliu's confidence to be regained, Lin Fan had to do a proper demonstration. As for this Grand Master Chenkin who was once so strong in Lin Fan's eyes. Naturally, he was the best candidate for the demonstration. This tragic cry was chilling. Even the elders nearby could only watch with befuddled eyes. What in the world had just happened? You, Elder Di Zonghai glared at Lin Fan in a rage. However, the moment his eyes moved towards Lin Fan's right hand, he could not help but retreat back a few steps. A gentle pain in his nuggets began to surge up to his head. Looking at everyone else, Lin Fan smirked. He pinched his fingers repeatedly before turning his gaze down and glaring at everyone with a sinister look. I'm here for revenge today. None of you shall even dream of escaping. All the elders of Chenkin sect were astonished. Glancing at one another, they hollered back, don't you dare go overboard. With just you alone. Lin Fan chuckled, give it a try then. Brazen. In that instant, all of those elders burst out with an immense amount of energy, slapping towards Lin Fan with palm strikes. These strikes had a tremendous aura. In the eyes of Wang Xiaoliu and the others, this was practically enough to destroy the world. Lin Fan stood and looked at these people calmly. Their cultivation states were too weak. So weak that he wasn't interested in the least bit. Or rather, it would be more accurate to say that he could even squash them like ants with the flip of his palm. Boss, be careful. Looking at this scene, Wang Xiaoliu could not help but exclaim out in worry. In Wang Xiaoliu's eyes, the fact that Lin Fan was standing there motionlessly was a sign that he should be rooted in fear. Bam! The 6 elders let out a gleeful smile. Their strikes of full power had landed successfully on the other party. But in that instant, their faces changed. Weak. Simply too weak. Lin Fan laughed coldly. Activating True Origin's crushing kick, he sent a kick towards all of their crotches. Arg, arg, one by one, the sounds of their nuggets exploding rang through the skies. The 6 elders lied on the ground, their hands covering their crotches as they rolled around in pain without a single care of their image any longer. Painful, painful, this was bloody painful. It was so painful that they were starting to doubt the very existence of life. Looking at the scene, all the surrounding Chenkin sect disciples could only gape with frightful eyes. As Lin Fan cast his gaze on them, all of their faces turned pale with shock. They were truly fearful right now. To think that the Grand Master and all the other elders could not even withstand a single strike from the other party. What sort of a terrifying existence was he? Lin Fan looked at these Chenkin sect disciples. For every debt to be collected, there was a debtor. Lin Fan wasn't someone who would involve others or destroy the sects of others for no reason. These disciples here had no right to take part in that battle back then. They were not involved. Y'all, scram, Lin Fan muttered these words softly. Instantly, all of the disciples sprinted as quickly as they could away from the sect out of the mountains. Be it inner sect or outer sect disciples, none of them dared to stay any longer. They didn't even dare to pack their belongings before running off without a single word. Boss, Wang Xiaoliu looked at Lin Fan with a face of respect. The other punching bag disciples were the same. Domineering and imposing. To think that Grandmaster Chengkin, who was practically invincible in their eyes, would be as weak as a chicken in front of Lin Fan. Xiaoliu, don't worry. The promise I made to you those years ago that you'll definitely soar in life, I'll definitely fulfill it. I guarantee you that your life from henceforth will change entirely. Lin Fan continued. Boss, that wasn't what I was referring to. Just the fact that you could glorify my family technique, monkey steals peaches, to this state of mastery. I'm already grateful enough for that. Wang Xiaoliu replied in gratitude. It's alright, these are two different things. Wait for me at the back. I've still got stuff to finish settling here. Yes, Wang Xiaoliu and the others nodded their heads and headed off. Looking at the 7 men lying on the ground, Lin Fan smiled with a frosty look. You reap what you sow. Now that yours truly was back, none of them should even dream of escaping this. Greed, fair enough, haha, yours truly would use that vice of greed to lure all of them back here. From his storage, Lin Fan took out the storage ring of Chen Zan. Even though this man dared to proclaim himself as someone blessed from the heavens, he did do pretty well. In just the span of a single year, he had collected tons of valuable treasures. And now, these treasures were about to show their worth. Lin Fan poured out all the treasures within. They piled up like a small little mountain on their own. These were treasures that people of Kangling continent could never ever obtain. After all, Chen Zan did have 60 energy grid line chains to his command. Therefore, the items he would take an eye or liking to would definitely be some peerless and priceless treasures. Looking at these precious items, Lin Fan smirked coldly and flicked his robes. Treasure aura, go forth and attract those dumb *CKS back for yours truly. Boom, with that, a beam of treasure aura shot up straight into the sky. Wang Xiaoliu and the others glared at the light beam, stunned and in a daze. They did not know what that was. But by the looks of it, this thing looked pretty damn cool. It seemed to be something really powerful. Lin Fan looked at this treasure aura. Seems like it looks attractive, but it's not enough. Fine, I'll just throw everything out and see who'll come for it. But, they'll have to see if they've got the life to get away with it. Energy grid line chains, come out. Energy grid line chains could be considered as a form of treasure as well. With that, Lin Fan tossed all 60 energy grid line chains of Chen Zan into the mix of treasures. An even rougher beam of treasure aura burst out into the sky, creating a strange phenomenon. A vortex appeared above the sky, with lightning rumbling within it. This was the process of the formation of a treasure guardian spirit. Once the treasure aura hit a sufficient capacity, it would result in the formation of a treasure guardian spirit catastrophe. If it could tide through the catastrophe, a treasure guardian spirit would be formed. And if it couldn't, all the treasures would disappear into dust. Get lost. Looking at the skies, Lin Fan slapped his palm outwards. Suddenly, the entire catastrophe ripped apart and dissipated. Yours truly is here to attract all those greedy FCKS. There was no need to form a treasure guardian spirit. With that, a shockwave rippled out in all directions towards the world. Countless sects felt the vibrations. Infinite Flower Sect. Blackwater Sect. NOVEL-B in.C Ohm. Infinite Demon Sect. Fine Sword Sect. All sorts of powerful beings were hidden somewhere in the world. Countless powerful beings were all attracted by that treasure aura that surged up into the sky. To the strong and powerful, an aura like this was truly captivating. Just what sort of powerful treasure has appeared in this world? That seems like it's in the direction of Chengkin sect. Could Chengkin sect have obtained something really precious? Not bad, not bad. It's time to go get a share of it. Such a brilliant aura. This must be the best treasure that has appeared throughout the history. No matter what, we've got to get our hands on it. Somewhere in a forbidden ground, a young man was holding a jade bottle. He had cultivated out a pure essence from within it and infused it within his body. After that, as though he was attracted by the beam of light as well, he left the forbidden grounds. At the same time, in another pitch-black place, a man opened his eyes. This man's body was thick and bulky. Carrying an aura of both yin and yang, he reeked of a sinister feeling. Lin Fan smiled and waited slowly. There was no need for him to go searching before all of these people would send themselves here. The remaining 8 great sects, Yan Emperor, Heaven Queen. All of you degenerates would definitely not miss this chance for the treasure. But, once you're here, don't think that you can ever leave again. Lin Fan took in a deep breath. He had waited for this moment for a long time. A long, long time. Chapter 405, Prepare for a Big FC King. Chapter 405, Prepare for a Big FC King. Senior Brother Ni, Senior Brother Yin, I'll carve tablets for the both of you. You guys just wait and watch the show later on. Your junior brother here is going to give them a good walloping. As for the other senior brothers, I'll not be bothering to create tablets for them. After all, the 3 of us had the closest relationship back then. Don't be so touched that you guys start crying in the underworld now. Lin Fan took up 2 pieces of precious heavenly crystals. Using his finger as a dagger, he carved and etched their names onto the tablet. He then placed these tablets at one side. Looking at the tablets, Lin Fan could not help but give a long sigh. To think that they had their hopes and dreams of becoming strong together back then. But now when their junior brother had become so strong, they did not have the chance to see it any longer. Lin Fan took out a stool from his storage and sat in the middle of the training grounds melancholically. Qian Kunzi and the other 6 elders were still rolling about on the ground miserably. That sort of pain was something that no one could imagine. It tormented one's mental self directly. Even though their cultivation states were pretty decent, all of it meant nothing under this kick of Lin Fan, which could sever all possible descendants. Lin Fan crafted out 7 towering pillars that protruded up into the heavens and propped them upright. Qian Kunzi, don't bear any grudge against me. After all, these are all your due deserts. Lin Fan said casually. Flicking his robes, all the clothes on these 7 people were torn apart instantly, revealing those nether regions, which were now cruelly desecrated, to be revealed in the open air. Taking a single glance, Lin Fan could not even bear to look any longer. It did look pretty disgusting. You're a devil. Qian Kunzi's speech was haphazard right now. By the time he finished stuttering those words, he howled out in pain once more. Ha! Lin Fan laughed coldly. 7 ropes tied them to those pillars before he tossed all of them into his storage. It was time to wait for them slowly. He would wait for all of these fellas to come together before he took them all down in one fell swoop. Lin Fan took Chicky out. Cuckoo. The moment Chicky came out, he cried out loudly. He slapped his wings and looked at Lin Fan in displeasure with those bright sparkly eyes of his. It was as though he was begrudging Lin Fan for keeping him in there for so long. Looking at the way Chicky was, Lin Fan could not help but laugh exasperatedly. All right, Chicky. Head there and be a normal chicken. I'll make sure you get to enjoy a good show soon. Chicky glared at Lin Fan cautiously. Why did his big brother's expression look so dodgy? But, the thought of being able to enjoy a good show soon struck joy into his heart as he twerked his bum and headed over into the distance. He then became a happy clucky chicken and strutted around casually. Lin Fan couldn't wait to see how ugly the faces of these people could get later on. Time passed quickly. Chicky had already fallen into a short nap. As for Lin Fan, he was seated down with his eyes closed, thinking about some stuff. Suddenly, he opened his eyes and looked up into the void. Seems like they're here. Lin Fan entered stealth mode and sat there, quietly waiting for the arrival of these people. He wondered what they would think when they arrived here and saw the huge amount of treasures. Suddenly, a ripple appeared in the skies. One by one, the aura that represented the strong of this world appeared. A few figures appeared instantaneously in the sky above Chenkin sect. These people exchanged glances with one another, wondering just what in the world was happening right now. Immediately after, another wave of people arrived through the void. Lin Fan looked at these people in the air and found a few familiar faces. But, not everyone was present yet. He should wait for a while longer. Just what in the world's up with Chenkin sect? I wonder. There's not even a single person around. Strange. Guys, look there. One of them pointed over to the training grounds of Chenkin sect and exclaimed. The moment everyone's gazes turned over, their faces changed as they hurried down. As they came to face this mountain of treasures, their breathing became haphazard and hurried. They had never seen so many treasures in their lives before. What an amazing sight. Everyone, before the others arrive, let's split this up first. Yes, for sure. With circumstances as such, it won't be long before more people are attracted here. By then, it'll be difficult for us to even want to get more treasures. And just then, a wild laughter rang out from the sky. Everyone, you're trying to split up the loot before even my arrival. Now, isn't that a little too much? A black-robed man appeared in the sky followed by a few elders. Looking at the mountain of treasures on the training grounds, they were equally surprised. Infinite Devil Sect, everyone's faces changed. Old Master Wanmo, since that's the case, how about we split it now? What do you think about it? The Grand Master of Wind Sword Sect called out. This Old Master Wanmo of the Infinite Devil Sect was well known for his vicious methods. Old Master Wanmo nodded his head in agreement. He knew as well that the longer he delayed, the more people would arrive. But just as he nodded his head, yet another few figures appeared in the sky. Infinite Flower Sect, Blackwater Sect, etc. A few other sects had appeared together, and the tables turned once more. Ha, to think that there would be such a good deal from the heavens. Treasures amounting to a mountain. Seems like they're just waiting for those with affinity to come and collect them. An old lady clad in green robes laughed brightly. Even though she was short of an arm, her aura was still pretty formidable. Lin Fan would never ever forget this old lady. The Grand Master of Blue Sea Sect, Old Lady Blue Sea. Her arm was severed by the Grand Master of Saint Devil Sect back then. But, she did seem to be having a pretty enjoyable life still. Anyone who witnesses this has a share to these treasures. Another imposing voice boomed out of the skies. 9 dragons, which were made up of true energy, streaked through the skies as a man clad in dragon robes descended from the skies. This pitch-black dragon's robe gave off a chilling aura. Looking at who it was that had arrived, everyone's faces frowned with displeasure. Yan Emperor. Lin Fan just sat there quietly. But, his heart was elated beyond words. Here, they were all here, he was now short of just the Heaven Queen. Looking at the 2 tablets by the side, Lin Fan's lips curled into a smile. He would wash this place up with the blood of these people. Even if God himself, the Almighty Father, were to intervene, no one would be able to save them. Looking up into the vast sky, Lin Fan's face gave off a strange expression. He had not expected to see the 2 of them here. Fang Han and Han Lu. In order to protect their own dog lives, they had abandoned the sect and bowed down to these other sects. But, that was not the reason for his strange expression. The cultivation states of these 2 fellas had grown to that of a greater celestial. In fact, their strength was even comparable to those around them. Seemed like they've already received blessings of their own back then. In order to utilize these blessings, they did not care anymore for their dignity as long as they survived. Suddenly, yet another 2 auras attracted Lin Fan's attention. Seemed like the Heaven Queen was here as well. But, one of the other auras had Lin Fan frowning. It was familiar, yet he could not recall immediately who or what it was. A rain of flowers appeared the moment the Heaven Queen appeared. The flowers danced around the entire place, bathing everyone in a floral sea. With exceptional features like a fairy, the Heaven Queen appeared before the eyes of everyone with her few female servant guards. Looking at the Heaven Queen, everyone frowned. This was the last person they wanted to see. After all, even till this day, no one could dispute the fact that the Heaven Queen's strength was number 1 amongst them. But no matter, if the Heaven Queen wished to devour all of these treasures for herself, that would depend on whether she had the ability to do so. Looking at that mountain of treasures, the Heaven Queen's heart skipped a beat as well. It was pretty incredible indeed. This was the territory of Chenkin sect. Why would there be these treasures here? This entire thing reeked of a fishy ruse. Her features were peerless as she looked down on them with a look of contempt for the entire world. Everyone, the voice of the Heaven Queen boomed out. Chapter 406, Spectacular. Chapter 406, Spectacular. I'm sure everyone here has been attracted due to the aura of all these treasures present. However, please consider this carefully. Isn't it weird that all these treasures would be accumulated here for no reason? Besides, not a single person from Chenkin sect is to be seen nearby. I'm afraid things may not be as simple as they seem. Looking at the treasures, Heaven Queen was quite wary. There was definitely something fishy about this. As for these other Grand Masters, she felt that she had the need to let them know of this point as well. Upon hearing these words, the gleeful expressions of the Grand Masters present did turn grimmer. But now that these treasures were right in their reach, could they just really leave it here without taking anything at all? Besides, with all the Grand Masters present, who could try to stand against them or try anything funny? Heaven Queen, aren't you worrying way too much? With all these Grand Masters present, who would dare to mess with us? Blue Sea Old Lady asked. She was filled with jealousy towards the Heaven Queen's disposition. After all, how could she be so beautiful with such a powerful cultivation state? The heavens were truly unfair. The treasures are right in front of our eyes, and we're supposed to just leave it be. The Grand Master of Wind Sword Sect asked. Hey, if you're afraid, you can leave by all means, Heaven Queen. The rest of us will split these treasures by ourselves then. The old master of Infinite Devil Sect laughed sinisterly. He was a vicious person. There was no way he would just leave these treasures here without taking any at all. Given his opportunistic character, he would definitely seize every single treasure he saw in his entire life. As for those people from Chenkin sect, they must have already taken a huge lump of the treasures before running away and leaving us with this meager amount. Well, after we're done splitting all of this, we'll go look for that crafty old fox, Qian Kunzi, and have him cough out all the treasures he has taken. The Grand Master of Hunyuan sect declared. No vel b in c om. The Heaven Queen knitted her brows. These people here were getting misled by the treasures being displayed right in their faces. Heaven Queen, are you trying to scare us off so that you can usurp everything on your own? The Yan Emperor, who had remained silent the entire while, finally spoke up. Once upon a time, the great Yan dynasty was under the rule of Saint Devil sect. However, now that he had mastered his godly skill, he was a formidable presence all by himself. As such, he could stand on equal grounds with all these major sects without being looked down upon. These treasures, all of them look extremely rare. In fact, I doubt even the Grand Masters present may have similar ones in their possession. There's quite a number of items that I haven't seen before in my life. If one could obtain them, I'm pretty sure their cultivation state can definitely jump to the next stage. The Yan Emperor glared at the Heaven Queen. There was no way he would just give up on all these treasures that were right before his eyes. The Yan Emperor's right. Everyone here, let's see what's available in these treasures. Upon hearing these words, the masses rushed forth and did a closer inspection of these treasures greedily. No matter how well versed in the world they were, there were some treasures that they had never seen before in their lives. That's the Star Rock. I heard that it has immense benefits. The Yin spiritual ice grass. I heard that it can even revive the dead. Look at those chains, guys. Could those be energy grid line chains? ... Upon hearing that, everyone's heart skipped a beat as they rushed forth to check it out. There's a whole 60 energy grid line chains right here. Even though we can't craft or make use of these energy grid line chains, if we were to use them as tributes, that would be of immense use as well. In fact, these are even more valuable than all the other treasures. ... Looking at all the Grand Masters, Heaven Queen sighed in her heart. She then looked at the surroundings, but couldn't find anything wrong. Suddenly, she noticed something that was off. What's with that chicken? Standing at a corner, Chicky was staring at all of these people with his bright, wide eyes. He wondered what these guys were doing. Didn't his old bro say that there was going to be a good show? Why were all these people just standing around talking and doing nothing? This is way too boring. Because he was bored, Chicky stood there and stretched out his claw, as though he was stretching for morning exercises. So are we going to have a fight or not? If there's no fight, your chicken here is going back for his nap. What a bore. Noticing that a beautiful woman was glaring at him, Chicky stared back at the other party. But after looking back for a while, Chicky could not stand the boredom anymore. Hence, he squatted down and covered his head with his wings. Lying over, he went back to nap. He would just wait for the fight to start before waking up again. Even though Heaven Queen felt that there was something wrong with this chicken, she just could not put her finger to it. Suddenly, she saw the Yan Emperor heading towards the bunch of treasure. Since nobody wants to take it, then I shall go ahead first. Looking at everyone, the Yan Emperor stepped forth. To think that such alluring treasures were lying right in their faces, yet these guys did not dare to head forth. Their guts really were getting smaller the older they got. Everyone looked at the Yan Emperor, as though they were anticipating something. The Yan Emperor's eyes sparkled. Reaching to the pile of treasures, he stretched his arm forward gently. At the same time, he was ready to retreat immediately should there be anything wrong. He took in a deep breath carefully. The moment he touched the treasures, his heart leapt with joy. There's nothing wrong. Looking at the scene, all the Grand Masters laughed out wildly. See? There's nothing wrong. Yan Emperor, take your time. We'll split it evenly. The Yan Emperor looked at all the treasures lustfully. Split evenly. Dream on. He swept his robes, and all the treasures entered his storage ring. His figure then shimmered as he was prepared to rip through the void and escape this place entirely. Yan Emperor, you weasel. Looking at the Yan Emperor trying to escape after taking all the treasures, all the Grand Masters were naturally incensed. The only thought on the Yan Emperor's mind right now was to hide in a secluded place with these treasures and cultivate for a long period of time. By the time he came out, none of these people would be his match. Looking at this scene, the heart of the Heaven Queen skipped a beat as well. She had not expected nothing to happen at all. Ha ha, the Yan Emperor laughed frantically. It was as though this was the happiest he had been after all these years. But this laugh did not sustain. Before long, the Yan Emperor found out about something horrific. It was as though the sky was sealed from the outside world. There was no way to escape at all. The Yan Emperor's body shuddered. He had a bad feeling about this. And when he caught the wrathful looks on the faces of the Grandmasters, his blood ran cold. Lin Fan observed the entire scene silently. He rubbed his chin with his finger, as though this was a blockbuster movie. He had already made sure to seal this entire place. No matter who it was, no one would escape this piece of sky. Even the 3 people that were hidden up in the sky above, none of them would escape. Yan Emperor, are you looking for death? Everyone glared at him in anger. Hand over the treasures or you shall bear the consequences. Yan Emperor glared at the masses coldly. HMPH, if you guys want me to spit out the treasures, you've got to have what it takes. With that, the battle ensued. The Heaven Queen continued to frown. She had a really bad feeling about this. It was as though someone was manipulating all of this from behind the scenes. Fang Han and Han Lu, who were hidden in the void above, bided their time quietly as well. They were equally lustful over these treasures. Now that the Yan Emperor had engaged in combat with the other Grandmasters, this was exactly what they wanted. The moment the opportunity arose, they would definitely strike. Ganged against by the 8 great sects, the injuries sustained by the Yan Emperor were only increasing by the moment. He took down his storage ring, tossed it to a far corner, and howled, if you guys want it that badly, go and get it. The time is now. The 3 people hidden in the void smirked with joy. Without hesitation, they broke out of their hidden state and burst out from the void, darting for the ring. All you bastards, stay away from the ring. Looking at these people coveting the rings, the Grandmasters of the 8 great sects howled in anger as they bolted towards it as well. Fang Han and Han Lu caught sight of each other, shock streaking through both their eyes. At the same time, they frowned at the sight of the other figure. Just who in the world was that? Boom! Just as all 3 of them stretched out for the storage ring, there seemed to be an immense amount of energy that was encompassing the storage ring, deflecting all 3 of them away into the distance. As though it was magneted by something, the storage ring rocketed towards the chair that was seated in the middle of the training grounds. Clap, 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 a series of claps rang out across the heavens and earth. Spectacular show, spectacular. Great sects are great sects indeed. At this moment, Lin Fan had exited from his stealth mode. The gazes of the masses turned towards this figure on the chair, all of them equally startled. Just who in the world was this person? Chapter 407, Take your time slowly. Chapter 407, Take your time slowly. Lin Fan sat there in an extremely relaxed manner, like any other cinemagoer would as they enjoyed the show on screen. He had already seen through these Grandmasters thoroughly. Now that he had already lured everyone here, Lin Fan had no intention of watching any further. It was time to take care of them once and for all. Cuckoo, Chicky was bored out of his wits and returned to Lin Fan. He thought that there would be something really exciting to see. However, after a while, he realized that everyone here were practically just rookies. None of their strikes had any soul-chilling effects. Neither the heavens shook nor the earth tremored. What sort of weak A**s sissy fight was this? Only big bros fights were the best to watch. To Chicky, these guys looked just like a bunch of kids throwing a tantrum. All the various Grandmasters stared at this strange chicken that was glaring at them. At the same time, they seemed to be sensing a look of disdain within those eyes of the chicken. They wondered if they were hallucinating. Patting Chicky who was perched on his shoulders once more, Lin Fan looked at these so-called great sects of Kangling continent and commented, very good. You guys have performed splendidly. Great job. Lin Fan was playing with the storage ring in his fingers. At the same time, he looked at the crowd above with a cold laugh. Pinching the ring slightly, the storage ring of the Yan Emperor crumbled into dust and all the treasures within scattered on the ground once more. Looking at that face, the expression of the Heaven Queen changed into one of disbelief. As for Fang Han and Han Lu, their faces were even more terribly shocked. The person who was hidden under black robes jerked momentarily as she caught sight of the look on Lin Fan's face. In fact, she even felt a strain of fear. Who are you? The masses looked at this man seated there with extreme caution. At the same time, they were filled with bewilderment. Listening to this question, Lin Fan could not help but laugh out. Seems like the eminent do have short memories indeed. It's only been, what? 2 years, hasn't it? And it seems like everyone present has forgotten all about me completely. Well, I've got to say that your brains aren't really functioning that well, guys. Not only are you alive, to think that you'd come back. The Heaven Queen stood there quietly. At the same time, her eyes were filled with perplexed emotions. Oh, seems like the Heaven Queen remembers me. What a memory you've got there. Lin Fan burst out laughing. Heaven Queen, who is he? The masses asked in confusion. They had tried hard at recalling but they just couldn't recall who this person was. Heaven Queen looked at the masses. He is the disciple of Saint Devil sect who left with the god blood back then. What? The moment Heaven Queen finished her words, everyone's faces were filled with evident disbelief. That disciple who had left with the god blood back then. How could that be? With that, everyone glanced at one another before they burst out laughing. Ha, to think that it's that lad back then. That old fogey from Saint Devil sect must have thought that the disciple whom he had sacrificed his life to send away must be pretty smart. But there we have it, he's a fool. Seems like you've made quite the big plan to lure us all in together, But you're just one, against all of us. Thanks for throwing yourself into our net. Retard. After hearing these words, Lin Fan burst out laughing maniacally. Were the heads of these Grand Masters filled with dung? Without a single word, the Yan Emperor retreated to the back of the crowd. He had a bad feeling about this. He had an especially bad feeling after Lin Fan crushed his storage ring just by pinching. That storage ring was a treasure that even he himself could not destroy as such. If the other party could do with such ease, there was no need to further explain the meaning behind that. Listening to the words of the 8 Grand Masters, Heaven Queen frowned. Couldn't these guys tell what was happening right now? If he dared to wait for them single-handedly, he must either be a fool or he had got a trump card. What sort of tricks could he pull in just 2 years? To the Heaven Queen, 2 years were a really short period of time, which practically amounted to nothing. But looking at how casually he was seated there, her heart couldn't help but thump furiously. Are you behind the reason why there's no one here at Chenkin sect? Heaven Queen asked. Oh, that's where you're wrong. Chenkin sect, this is Saint Devil sect. As for those from Chenkin sect, I've let some of them go. But some of them are still right here with us. Right, how about this? Let's check on them together so that you guys can be mentally prepared as well. With a chuckle, Lin Fan flicked his robes. 7 sky-piercing pillars appeared in the skies before slamming down onto the ground. Arg! The moment the towering pillars appeared, Qian Kunzi, who was tied up on it, wailed out tragically once more. The moment everyone saw this, their hearts skipped a beat, unable to believe the sight before them. What happened to Qian Kunzi? Heaven Queen did not dare to view those men on the pillars directly. She then asked, what do you want? F***ck your mother. You've got the mother **cking cheek to ask me what I want. Yours truly will make it clear then. None of you shall F***cking dream about leaving this mother **cking place. Dead orgod F***cking damn alive. Initially calm, Lin Fan shot up standing immediately upon hearing that question. With that, a formidable aura erupted out from him. Back when you guys destroyed Saint Devil sect, you should have known that this would be your outcome one day. You reap what you sow. Yours truly has endured all sorts of hardships, all just for today. All of you mother ckers shall crumble beneath my feet. Lin Fan's gaze of hatred filled the heavens and earth as he seethed the words out. Flicking his robes once more, 12 heavenly piercing pillars shot out, sealing the heavens once more and slamming down, embedding themselves into the ground. I've prepared all of these just for you guys. Lin Fan glared at the 8 Grand Masters, Yan Emperor, Heaven Queen and the 2 traitorous lackey dogs who had turned their backs against the sect. Interesting, I've destroyed countless of sects. Yet, this is the first time someone has come seeking vengeance. You're the first person whose methods of handling things are even more imposing than my own. But, if you want to create such a fuss, we've got to see if you've got the capabilities to match the fuss. Let me test you out then. Old Master Wanmo sniggered sinisterly. Turning around, he turned into a cloud of black mist as the entire cloud darted out towards Lin Fan. The others waited cautiously. Fang Han and Han Lu exchanged glances with one another. They had not expected Lin Fan to come killing his way back. Now that the old Master Wanmo was going to strike, they naturally had to observe. The best outcome would be for that kid to be a weakish tea and die in the hands of old Master Wanmo. Furthermore, old Master Wanmo was devious and specialized in the dark arts. The skills he cultivated were often vile and nefarious. In a one-on-one fight, other than Heaven Queen, no one should be able to get an advantage against him. One of the strongest powerhouses of the entire Kangling continent was not someone that any small fry could just hope to take on. Hee, lad, you could have lived longer. But since you came seeking death yourself, then there's no way you can lay the blame on me. Old Master Wanmo laughed out coldly. He was determined to suck the essence and blood of this kid dry. He had coveted the god blood for a really long time now. This kid should definitely not have what it took to completely absorb the god blood. Looking at the puff of black mist that was darting out towards him, Lin Fan's lips curled with contempt. As Old Master Wanmo approached Lin Fan and noticed that the other party had yet to react at all, he laughed out wildly, ha ha ha. But of course, Old Master Wanmo's laughter did not last. How could this be? Old Master Wanmo looked at the figure before him in absolute disbelief. To think that the other party would stop his entire skill with just a single hand. Seeing this scene, everyone's hearts jerked. At the same time, their eyeballs nearly popped out. They could not believe this. HMPH, trash. Raising his hand gently, Lin Fan gripped Old Master Wanmo's throat tightly, choking and lifting him up into the air. Bam! Instantly, a leg broke through the void and struck at Old Master Wanmo's groin. Arg! Old Master Wanmo howled out in pain. As though he had lost every last bit of fighting strength, he rolled about on the ground, frothing and foaming from his mouth. These tragic cries rang in everyone's ears. How chilling it sounded. Chapter 408. I've got a treasure, I'll challenge you. Chapter 408. I've got a treasure, I'll challenge you. Chicky, collect the corpses for me later on. Tie all of them onto these pillars. Settling one of them with just a single kick, Lin Fan called out. Cuckoo. With a cry of acknowledgement, Chicky hopped down from Lin Fan's shoulders. With a look of toying in his big, bright eyes, Chicky stepped forth, his claws stamping down with every single step with an imposing air. He gripped towards Old Master Wanmo's crotch. With a big swing, Chicky flung Old Master Wanmo towards one of the pillars. Straight after that, Chicky spread out his wings. A bright red glow shot into the sky and reached out at Old Master Wanmo. The moment it touched him, the glow turned into a bright flame, covering his entire body. His clothes were burnt away instantly, leaving him nude to the air. Arg! Old Master Wanmo cried out tragically. The pain at his groin was like infinite ants biting down on him, absolutely unbearable. He wanted to use his hands to apply pressure and stop the pain. However, before he could do that, those bright red flames turned into wires and coiled around him, leashing him tightly onto the heavenly piercing pillar. A demon of a man, someone whose existence was absolutely feared in Kangling continent. To see him being subdued so humiliatingly was a piercing sight to behold. All of the other Grand Masters who were watching this took in a breath of cold air as a look of disbelief passed through their faces. How could Old Master Wanmo have fallen just like that? Impossible, absolutely impossible. Looking at the tragic look on Old Master Wanmo's face, and especially at the pitiful state of his groin, everyone shuddered in fear. They could literally feel the pain just by looking. Oh, Old Master Wanmo, weren't you one of the most brazen ones back then? Never in your dreams did it occur to you that this would happen to you one day, right? Lin Fan laughed coldly. Seeing Chicky's actions, he was filled with pride. But, he was curious as well. Using just his claw to dangle the other party's groin, couldn't Chicky feel that something was wrong with that part? But looking at how excited Chicky was, Lin Fan did not point it out. As long as Chicky was happy. The moment everyone caught sight of Lin Fan's glare, their hearts sank. It was as though they had entered the 9 hells, as a cold fear surged into their hearts. Fear, terror, panic, disbelief, all sorts of emotions were running through their minds right now. He had taken down Old Master Wanmo in just a single move. What were their chances? Don't even think about escaping. I've already sealed the entire sky here. All of you shall hand yourselves over here today. Lin Fan took in every single last bit of emotions that these guys were feeling into account as he laughed heartily. All of this was retribution. If you cut the weed without eliminating the roots, the weed will always grow again. This was coming true from yours truly. Everyone, fear not. We've got so many of us here right now. Does this kid really have the ability to keep all of us here? If we could take down Saint Devil sect with our combined forces back then, we can definitely repeat that feat against this lad. Looking at everything before her, Blue Sea Old Lady was filled with fear as well. However, the situation did not leave them with any space for consideration. They had to band together to get rid of this obstacle before them. That's right, everyone, join forces. We'll strike together. If we can get rid of Saint Devil sect, we can definitely get rid of this remnant B** starred dreg. Go then, what's with all the talking? We'll go if you go. ... Standing there, Lin Fan was as malevolent as a peerless demon of the century. His formidable aura spanned the entire sky above the training grounds. Oh, don't bother fighting. You guys don't have to strike at me. I'll strike. Looking at these grandmasters, Lin Fan laughed coldly. Blue Sea old lady, since you like to be such a show-off and take the lead, I'll start with you. Looking at the Blue Sea old lady, Lin Fan disappeared instantly from where he was. By the time he reappeared, he was right in the Blue Sea old lady's face. You. Just as the Blue Sea old lady was about to say something, her body shuddered. A massive force had entered her body from her crotch and was wreaking havoc all on its own will. November LBJNN. Chicky, she's yours. Lin Fan tossed the Blue Sea old lady over to Chicky. Chicky tossed his head as his eyes flashed with dominance towards the body that was rocketing towards him. Letting out a look of disdain, he cried out wildly. Leaping up and spinning his body, he used a roundhouse kick and sent the Blue Sea old lady darting towards the heavenly pillars. An old lady like this was somebody that even Chicky didn't want to touch at all. Everyone, attack! Looking at the situation, the Grandmasters knew that there was no way they were going to avoid this. With that, they struck at Lin Fan with massive force. Thud, thud, a series of terrible wails rang out. Compared to Lin Fan, these so-called powerful Grandmasters were nothing but ants. Almost simultaneously, True Origin's crushing kicks left a series of rips in the void. Each rip represented someone's nuggets being crushed cruelly. Chicky was starting to get busy as well. One claw after another, he kicked these people towards those pillars mercilessly and tied them up afterward with his sealing chains. Looking at the scene before him, the Yan Emperor was shocked out of his wits. Yan Emperor. Lin Fan's voice was cold. The Yan Emperor's heart was thumping. He couldn't just sit by idly and wait for death. Kid, I shall fight you with all I've got today. Looking at Lin Fan, boundless anger burned within the Yan Emperor's heart. He did not dare to hide his true strength any longer, as a malevolent aura erupted out violently from his body. Devouring heavens. Big ancient devil. ... Instantly, a limitless aura of a deep abyss burst out from the Yan Emperor's body. That aura was so strong that it seemed to be able to devour the entire heavens and earth. HMPH. Here I was wondering about the sort of potential you must have for you to obtain such strength in just 2 years. So, the reason behind that is because you've been cultivating some nefarious dark skill. Lin Fan could not stop his laughter. These were the struggles of a dying man. From that limitless abyss of dark aura, a peerless demon seemed like it was about to be born. By now, the Yan Emperor's face was pale as a sheet. Kid, no matter how strong you are, you shall fall today. The Yan Emperor hollered. The big ancient devil began to materialize as his massive body covered the sky, showing its fearsomeness. Seeing this, Heaven Queen frowned once more. To think that the Yan Emperor had been hiding such a skill. RWAGHR. The big ancient devil who had materialized howled wildly as his demonic aura covered half the skies. Scram! Looking at the big ancient devil in the skies, Lin Fan yelled. The moment the massive big ancient devil heard this yell, he shuddered momentarily. He used his pitch-black eyes to look at the puny human below. However, the moment his gaze met with Lin Fan's figure, his face turned pale. The big ancient devil could tell that this puny human's aura was defying even the heavens itself right now. In fact, there was even a chilling feeling attached to this aura. Run, run, run. Instantly, that peerless big ancient demon used his hands to pull the ripped-apart gap shut as he scurried away with his bum. How can that be? Seeing this, the Yan Emperor was entirely befuddled. He did not know what in the world was happening right now. He had cultivated to an extreme limit before he could connect with that mysterious realm. From there, he was wasting his own body's source so as to summon that strong being. But to think that it would scram away from just a single holler by the other party. Impossible. The Yan Emperor howled madly. However, in that instant, Lin Fan appeared right before his face and chuckled. Thud. The Yan Emperor's face turned into shades of white and green before settling on a full white as he collapsed down onto a kneeling position in the sky. With another kick, Lin Fan sent the Yan Emperor towards Chicky for him to handle. Once all of this was done, Lin Fan would then take his time to torture them slowly. By now, there were only 4 people on the scene. The Heaven Queen was the highlight of this entire show. He would leave her for later. First, it was the turn of those 2 traitorous dogs. Senior brother Lin. Fang Han gulped down on his saliva. Any bit of resistance he could muster up earlier was entirely gone by now. To think that he could take down all the other sects single-handedly. This power was beyond anyone's imagination. Fang Han had always been really proud of his own cultivating speed. But after looking at Lin Fan, he now knew that he was just living in his own world. Fang Han, you have no FC King rights to call me senior brother. Lin Fan replied coldly. Fang Han and Han Lu, in order to protect your own lives, both of you struck out viciously towards Wang Tianfei, senior brother Wang. You know, I haven't forgotten about that. Fang Han retreated a few steps back as his eyes flashed with rage. He was someone who had the heritage of the Devil King. He was an overlord. Junior brother Fang, it's useless to speak anymore. There's no way he's going to let us off. Let's join forces. We might have a chance that way. Han Lu, who had remained silent the entire time, finally spoke up. Fang Han looked over at Han Lu before nodding his head. All right. Suddenly, Han Lu's power level began to spike up as he held the holy jade bottle in his hand. Feeling the burst of Han Lu's powers, Fang Han was startled for a moment. To think that Han Lu would be even stronger than him. This guy had been hiding his strength all the while. Lin Fan, the others may fear you, but I, Han Lu, certainly do not. After all, I defy the heavens. The lives of those people are like ants, and it was already predestined for them. Han Lu's voice was getting deeper and more mysterious. Looking at Han Lu, Lin Fan's face curled into a grin. The aura that was being given off from Han Lu's treasure was not something that belonged to the Xuanwang world. The only explanation was that this was from another world. Are you so confident because you possess that? Sure, that's fine as well. It's time for you to understand what it means to pay for your mistakes. Lin Fan was interested in checking out just what sort of treasure this was for Han Lu to have such confidence to challenge Lin Fan in the face. Fang Han's heart was getting weaker by the moment. He had not expected Han Lu to be hiding himself so deeply. This aura was far superior compared to his own. If he could escape from this ordeal, he must definitely steal that treasure away from Han Lu. After all, only he, Fang Han, was worthy of wielding such a treasure. Even though Han Lu's cultivation state was nothing compared to Lin Fan, the reason why he dared to challenge Lin Fan outright was all because of this holy jade bottle. In the past 2 years, Han Lu had repaired this holy jade bottle completely. At the same time, he had discovered and mastered all of its capabilities. Back then in the sect, he already wanted to kill Lin Fan cruelly. Now was the time. Chapter 409, Suppressing Everything. Chapter 409, Suppressing Everything. Han Lu's long robes expanded rapidly, as a white beam shot out from the holy jade bottle and coiled itself around him. Lin Fan, I've tolerated you for a really long time now. This is the heaven and earth's mixed energy right here which can deflect any source of malice from me. I am undefeatable right now. Today, I shall show you the true power of Han Lu. Han Lu's eyes sparkled as his fighting intent soared. Even though he knew that his power level was not on par with the other party, he had faith that the mysterious power of the holy jade bottle would tide him through this battle. Fang Han, what are you waiting for? Looking at Fang Han who was frozen at a side blankly, Han Lu's voice was filled with displeasure. He knew that this Fang Han wasn't someone decent either. Even though they were joining forces, this was also because he had no other choice. In the end, he still didn't trust this guy. Not only did he have to defend against Lin Fan, he had to watch out for Fang Han as well. Fang Han's head turned with the voice towards Han Lu, as his gaze was filled with greed. However, he sobered up quickly and glared at Lin Fan. A demonic aura surged out from his body instantly. In fact, the demonic aura was even stronger than the Yan Emperor. Seems like the two of you have gone through some pretty decent encounters, Looking at their changes right now, Lin Fan could hardly imagine how they were back in Saint Devil sect. This fella, Fang Han, he must have gotten some kind of heritage or bloodline. Hence, his path of cultivation was more imposing. As for Han Lu, everything depended on that treasure in his palms. Lin Fan had never seen a treasure of this sort. Something that could change a normal man into someone of that state within just 2 years must be far from ordinary. If someone like him didn't exist in this world, these two might truly have been the main character of this place. But what a pity, that wasn't ever going to happen. Just then, something was happening to Fang Han's body. His body was bulking up quite a bit as the demonic aura stained the sky. Han Lu was startled as well. Seemed like he had underestimated Fang Han. To think that this fella could be this strong as well. Come at me together then. Lin Fan beckoned to the both of them. Even though he was curious about their powers, that was all there was to it. To Lin Fan, both of these men were still weak as chicken. Flicking out his finger, a crystal clear water droplet emerged from the holy jade bottle. Even though this water droplet looked normal, it possessed a mysterious deep power within. Fang Han cast a dubious look over at Han Lu. Just this water droplet? Was this guy kidding? Lin Fan, this water droplet itself is an entire world of its own. Han Lu said calmly. Flicking his fingers once more, the water droplet burst out towards Lin Fan. No one had yet to defend against this move of Han Lu's. Back in the past, before he had even completely mastered the holy jade bottle, he had already killed off a powerful being with just this move alone. Now that he had complete mastery of the holy jade bottle, its power was even more formidable. Hearing this, Fang Han's expression changed. He had not expected this thingy to be this strong. At the same time, the feeling of greed within his heart intensified. Looking at the water droplet that was piercing through the void towards him, Lin Fan smiled. He stretched out a single finger gently. Bring. Just then, a loud noise burst out from the skies. How can that be? Han Lu's face was stumped. To think that Lin Fan had stopped the entire projectile with a single finger. Han Lu, do you really think that you can stop me with just a single treasure? If that's the case, all my years spent living must have been only worth that of a dog's. Lin Fan laughed coldly. When he touched the water droplet, he did feel a massive amount of energy surge out. This energy was far from normal. Even someone who had 5 energy grid line chains to their name might not have been able to withstand this strike. But what a pity that the amount of energy grid line chains he had wasn't 5. It was close to 500 by now. That level of strength was more than enough to take down and suppress practically everything. Fang Han, what are you waiting for? Hurry up and strike. Han Lu, who was calm initially, started shouting. Everything had changed way too quickly for him. Devil King's realm. Fang Han's face changed as he hollered out with a punch towards Lin Fan. This punch possessed an immeasurable amount of energy. In fact, it was infused with the imposing aura of the peerless Devil King. The punch ripped through the void as an illusory image of the Devil King appeared, repressing everything. HMPH, here I thought that you might be capable of something. Seems like that's all. With a cold glance, Lin Fan tossed out a casual punch. Instantly, the boundless amount of energy of Lin Fan's punch took over the aura of Fang Han's punch immediately. Bam, bam, the void was being ripped apart as the energy currents were leaking out in all directions. Fang Han's face changed in disbelief. Impossible. How could you be this strong? Boom. Upon meeting Lin Fan's punch, Fang Han was sent flying into the distance. His arm was a mess of blood and meat, with white bones protruding. Looking at how Fang Han was sent flying with just a single punch, Han Lu didn't hold back anything any longer. Lin Fan, I'll kill you. Han Lu slapped at the holy jade bottle. Instantly, a dazzling brilliance covered the entire sky. The holy jade bottle glided into the sky. Turning upside down, it was as though some sort of heavenly flooding water was about to gush out from it. Lin Fan, even if I have to die with you, I'll take you down today. Han Lu's face was pale right now. In fact, he was coughing out essence blood. As though they had a life of their own, these essence blood drops found their way into the holy jade bottle. With that, an intense aura emanated out of the holy jade bottle. Instantly, a white stream of water poured out from it and covered everything, as though they were from the heavens itself. HMPH, just because I'm toying with you, you kids think I was going at it for real. It's alright, time for you guys to experience absolute despair. Looking at the sky, Lin Fan stretched out his hand and grabbed at the holy jade bottle. Haha, Lin Fan, you're way too cocky. This holy jade bottle does not belong in this world. The power that it holds is not something that you can deal with. You shall pay the price for your actions today. Han Lu's body was wavering as though he could fall over at any moment. Seemed like the toll on his body was pretty great. But just then, his entire face was filled with shock. A gigantic palm appeared, covering the entire sky. With its massive strength, it ripped the surrounding void apart. As it gushed down on Lin Fan's arm, the white water evaporated into a white mist. Oh, seems like it's got some capabilities. Lin Fan chuckled, but still, he paid it no attention as he continued to grasp the holy jade bottle in his palm. No matter how it resisted, it was to no avail. Han Lu, what else have you got? Take it all out, I'll receive all of your attacks. Lin Fan looked at Han Lu condescendingly. How can this be? Han Lu retreated backward by a few steps in absolute disbelief. To think that his greatest support of strength would mean nothing in the hands of Lin Fan. Return it to me, Han Lu howled out, his eyes burning with endless fury. You're dreaming. Lin Fan teleported right in front of Han Lu's face instantly, causing the latter to jump in fear. A feeling of dread surged through his body. Han Lu could feel an ominous feeling when he caught the gaze of Lin Fan. All of you may think that you're strong. However, in my eyes, all of you are still a few pieces of weakish *ts. Lin Fan said casually, disregarding their existences entirely. With a loud thud, Han Lu collapsed onto the floor. He scrambled back a few steps and pointed his finger at Lin Fan. Why, you can't blame us. You were there with us back then. What could we have done? We only wanted to live on. Han Lu gulped down his saliva. He had lost everything right now. The holy jade bottle was his final trump card. Listening to this, Lin Fan could not help but chuckle out coldly. Everyone wishes to live. But I don't think that you'll lead a more fulfilling life than dying back then. This must have been the reason that you're not willing to die back then, right? Lin Fan said while toying and twirling the holy jade bottle in his hand. Aye. Han Lu's face changed. He did not know what else he could say. He had this treasure back then. How could he have afforded to die there and then? Lin Fan glared at Han Lu in absolute disdain. Treasure? Ha! Yours truly had the system itself. This could be considered the strongest existence in this entire world, yet yours truly wasn't even afraid of death. This guy was afraid of death just for something like this. Ha ha! Lin Fan burst out laughing. Putting his hands together, a massive amount of energy grid line chains shot out. What are you trying to do? Han Lu exclaimed out at Lin Fan's actions. He had a really bad feeling about this. Crack. No. Please no. Han Lu's greatest fear happened. The treasure he had deemed to be the most precious in his entire life was just crushed into dust by Lin Fan. Even though Lin Fan was curious towards this treasure, he didn't put it to heart. In fact, he couldn't help but admire the toughness of this treasure as well. He could only smash it to pieces after using all his strength. This was a good treasure indeed. Ah, my treasure. Han Lu howled heartbrokenly as he glared at everything in absolute disbelief. The remaining liquid dribbled down Lin Fan's palms and slowly dripped onto the floor. Drip, drip. A puff of white mist was all that rose up. Chapter 410. Imposing Little Lin Fan. Chapter 410. Imposing Little Lin Fan. Senior brother Lin, I beg you. Please let me go. I'm truly regretful right now. I shouldn't have been a coward back then. Please. Fang Han was truly afraid right now. In the face of absolute repression, he was filled with fear and nothing else. Even if there were only a single shot at survival, he wouldn't have resorted to begging. However, right now, there was no light at the end of the path. If he were to die just like this, he would be really indignant. The heritage of the Devil King. He was someone who could be a champion. As long as he survived, he would definitely be able to become an overlord of a part of the world one day for sure. How could he die just like this? Do you think I'll let you guys off? Lin Fan threw the remaining pieces of the holy jade bottle in his palm aside. As for Han Lu, he was sprinting off into the distance. Grasping at any bits of pieces of the holy jade bottle he could find, he ran off with absolute dismay. His only source of support was gone. Senior brother Lin, please spare me on account that we were once from the same sect. Forgive me, I'll never dare to do it ever again. Fang Han was weeping right now, but the hatred within his heart was surging as though it was destroying his entire self. He was filled with hatred. Why was the difference between them so great? He was someone who had gotten the heritage of the Devil King. It's exactly because we were from the same sect that I'm even bothering to talk so much nonsense with you guys. Otherwise, you would have been hung up there on one of those pillars long ago. Lin Fan laughed coldly. Vengeance had to be swift. If he had a heart of pity and forgave this guy, then what sort of vengeance would this be? And no. Fang Han shook his head repeatedly. Senior brother, I've acquired tons of treasures in these past few years. I can give them all to you as long as you spare me, please. I truly don't wish to die. Treasures. Do I look like I'm lacking in them? If you guys had just run away with your tails between your legs just because of your cowardice, I wouldn't hold it against you. But, to think that you had dared to murder senior brother Wong from our same sect just to prove your own loyalty as traitors. I'll never forgive you guys for that. Lin Fan seethed coldly. He already had plans of his own regarding the outcomes of these people. Suddenly, something happened to Han Lu's figure. In an instant, a mysterious aura burst through the entire training grounds. Lin Fan looked over warily. The Han Lu of this moment had his long hair flying all about with the wind. His entire body was covered by a white mist. Fang Han was stunned. Even though he did not know what Han Lu was up to, as long as it could even help him stay alive, he hoped that it was something good. Ho, is it because of that thingy? Lin Fan looked at the broken shards of the holy jade bottle on the floor and smiled coldly. Han Lu's entire body was spasming. All that anger and despair had disappeared from his eyes entirely. Right now, his demeanor was changing entirely, rising elegantly. Suddenly, the weird phenomenon stopped. Han Lu looked around at the surroundings. He noticed the broken shards of the holy jade bottle on the ground, and then he looked over at Lin Fan. This man has been chosen by me. If you let him off, I'll forget all about the matter of you destroying my holy jade bottle today. Deal. Even though the words came out of Han Lu's mouth, Lin Fan knew that it wasn't Han Lu himself who was speaking out. Oh, and who are you? Lin Fan chuckled. You're not worthy to know who I am. All you have to understand is that I am not something the current you can afford to know about. As long as you leave some good karma with me today, you will definitely benefit from it in the future. Han Lu continued. Oh, quite cocky, aren't you? By the sounds of it, this guy was intending to put on a show of bullshit in front of Lin Fan. Looking at the conversation, Fang Han could catch no balls at all. However, by the looks of Han Lu, he knew that something was amiss. No, even though you're strong right now, you're still a frog in a well. I implore you not to seek out unnecessary trouble for yourself. Han Lu stood there and said calmly. Boom. Suddenly, a loud boom came out of the sky in the distance. Namo Saint Emperor. Han Lu raised his head and his lips curled into a smile, heaven's will. Lin Fan stood there as his brain started to tinker. The situation seemed to be getting complex. As for the voice that boomed out of the skies, could that be Kangling Continent's heaven's will? Namo Saint Emperor, I've already felt your consciousness descend upon this world back then. How is the upper world doing? The sky was filled with rainbow lights before culminating into the illusory vision of an elderly figure. You don't need to know how the upper world is doing. But, you don't seem to be doing too well yourself, Ever since the Supreme Being split you apart, I'm afraid that you're only 1/4 of who you were, right? Han Lu continued. That's right, I have completely split away from Dongling Continent's heaven's will. The heaven's will boomed out. Fang Han's face was absolutely bewildered. Everything was happening way too fast. But he had a feeling that he may be able to get out of this ordeal. Lin Fan's brows creased. Just what were these two rambling on about? But it was all right, he was interested in hearing what these two had to say. The elderly figure in the sky looked at Han Lu and nodded his head. He then turned his gaze to Lin Fan. Your name's Lin Fan. That's right, yours truly, Lin Fan replied to the heaven's will. Even though this was the heaven's will, Lin Fan was not afraid in the least bit. The affairs of today, just let it be. The 9 great sects cannot do without a master. Otherwise, all living beings will be in a state of suffering. The solemn voice of the heavens will rang out. Ho ho, Lin Fan chuckled and did not reply. The heaven and earth fell silent. Standing there all this while, Heaven Queen finally spoke up. Lin Fan, you cannot just do as you will whimsically from now on, lest you disrupt the greater cause of things. Lin Fan looked at the Heaven Queen without replying. He then cast his gaze at his surroundings and at the 2 tablets of his senior brothers. Female Empress, to think that you'd be here as well. Han Lu looked at Heaven Queen. Even though there was a tone of surprise within those words, he gave off a mysterious smile as well. That's right. Looking at the Namo Saint Emperor, Heaven Queen nodded in acknowledgement. It was as though these 3 powerful beings were casting Lin Fan and everyone else out of this world. As they conversed, all of their talks consisted of things that were happening in this so-called upper world. And to them, Lin Fan and the others were simply frogs in a well. They weren't worth being let in on the conversation at all. Lin Fan glared at all 3 of them before beckoning to Chicky. Looking at the 3 of them, Chicky hopped over towards Lin Fan. Chicky, come on in first. I'll let you out later. Lin Fan chuckled. Kukkaku. Chicky had been with Lin Fan all this while, so how could he not know that something big was about to happen? Stretching out both his wings, he cupped them together like fists as though he was rooting for Lin Fan to give it his best. Lin Fan then kept Chicky in his storage. He then held the 2 tablets of his senior brothers in his palms. Senior brothers, just watch and see. Whoever dares to stand in our way today, your junior brother will get rid of all of them. After he settled everything, Lin Fan walked towards Fang Han, who had a look of absolute horror. Instantly, True Origin's crushing kick erupted out. A tragic howl rang out into the skies as he tossed Fang Han up onto those pillars. Lin Fan, that's enough. The heavens will boomed out, unable to hide a strain of displeasure within its tone. Don't tell me that you dare to even disobey the words of the heavens will. Hey, old sh*t, don't you dare to spew your bullshit in front of yours truly. All of these people deserve death. Lin Fan hollered at the illusory heavens will. To him, so what if that was the heavens will? Insolent, the booming voice of the heavens will shook everything. The sky started to rumble with lightning as though they were about to rip Lin Fan apart. Haha, heavens will, seems like you just can't cut it, Even a life that's under your control dares to pit itself against you. Han Lu burst out laughing. Lin Fan, these are no longer issues that are within your control. Heaven Queen looked at Lin Fan with a perplexed look in her eyes. You shut up, Lin Fan glared at Heaven Queen. From his storage, he pulled out a bunch of pills, the pill you gave me back then. I'll return them to you tenfold right now. All the almighty pills shot out towards Heaven Queen and landed below her feet. With Lin Fan's skills of cultivating pills right now, cultivating these so-called almighty pills were something that he could do with absolute ease. Looking at these pills beneath her feet, Heaven Queen's expression was strange. These FCKERS had dared to massacre my entire Saint Devil sect back then. Where were you back then, heavens will? Now that I wish to kill them, that's just due comeuppance. And now, you dare to come say that you're unhappy about this. If you want to save these people, that's only if you can cross the dead body of Lin Fan. Even if the old man god is to show himself right now, yours truly will not give him any face. By now, Lin Fan was already prepared to fight this battle all the way. It was either they who perished or him. Translator's thoughts. Lamb. Wow, just as I thought the plot couldn't get more complex, it did. Now, for the term, Namo Saint Emperor. Namo refers to a way of singing praise that's specifically used in Sanskrit and Buddhism. Hence, Namo Amitabha. Heaven Queen seems like a really perplexing character right now. And just who in the world is that third black-robed figure that were in the skies? Last but not least, Chicky is still the best guys, ha ha ha. He's so cute, gosh. Chapter 411. Don't think you'll have it easy just because you're a woman. Chapter 411. Don't think you'll have it easy just because you're a woman. Cut the crap, whoever's fist is larger shall do the talking today. Do the three of you really think that you can control yours truly in the palms of your hands? Go back to your dreamland. Lin Fan stepped forth, his fighting intent unparalleled. Out of the three of them, the weakest one of all should be Heaven Queen. Based on his understanding of the conversation between Namo Saint Emperor and Heaven's Will, Heaven Queen was a being of the upper world as well. Besides, there was only a single strain of her consciousness that was present in this world. Even though he did not know what the two of them were up to, anyone who stood in the way of his revenge would be suppressed without questions. So what if that was the Heaven's Will of Kangling Continent? Lin Fan was going to take down the heavens today. Lin Fan, you're too brash. The events of that day are not what you think of them to be. Heaven Queen explained. HMPH, if it's not what I think of it is, then what was that? If you had wanted the god blood, you could have just gone after the Grand Master straight up. If he weren't your match and had fallen there, I would have no excuses. But to massacre all those senior and junior brothers of weaker cultivation bases. I'll bear their vengeance, Lin Fan hollered in rage. I, the Namo Saint Emperor, have traversed over the ancient times. But this is the first time I've come to face with someone who dares to be so insolent before me. Today, I shall let you understand the true meaning of being a frog in a well. You shall know how puny you truly are. Han Lu snorted coldly as a mysterious and deep aura burst out from him. Heaven's Will, lend me your river. ... Instantly, Han Lu disappeared from where he stood. From the sky, a glittering galaxy river tore through the void and came crushing down at Lin Fan. You think that yours truly would be scared? Looking at the sight before him, Lin Fan hollered, letting loose an immense amount of energy from himself as well. In that instant, the void tore apart. The sky changed color repeatedly between day and night as countless energy grid line chains covered the sky densely. How can that be? The faces of Heaven Queen and Heavens Will change immediately. They had not expected Lin Fan to be this strong. HMPH, frog in a well. Even though I'm only a single strain of consciousness, I've got more than enough power to suppress something like you. Looking at the aura that was emitted from Lin Fan, Han Lu replied imposingly. Boom. The moment Lin Fan's massive fist collided with that river, a destructive typhoon erupted out. How is this kid this strong? A look of shock filled the face of the elderly face of Kangling Continent's Heaven's Will. He was in disbelief as well. With 3/4 of his original self being split off, anyone who was cultivating in this world should face an extremely slow cultivation speed. Even people of greater celestial cultivation states who wanted to gather energy grid line chains would find it to be incredibly slow. Could this fella have gone over to the Dongling Continent? But that was not right either. Even if he had gone over to Dongling Continent, there was no way he could have gathered this many energy grid line chains. Just what in the world was going on right now? Namo Saint Emperor, Yours truly will turn you into a bloody dog emperor today. Lin Fan's eyes flashed as the eternal axe appeared in his hands. Firmament, cutting down with the axe, a bright flash of light appeared. As though it had split everything, the heaven and earth began to shake. Boom, as the axe made contact with the river shook as well. Kid, you think that you can act so lawlessly just because you've got some capabilities? You're too naive. Namo Saint Emperor retreated a few steps back, evidently not expecting this kid to be this strong. That was out of his calculations. HMPH, cut the bull. Yours truly shall have you kneel today. Lin Fan's fighting intent was formidable as it stained the entire sky. Boom, instantly, the void tore apart as the ground caved in. When someone reached Lin Fan's state of existence, every single move could practically tear down mountains and seas. How can the physical body of this lad be this strong? Namo Saint Emperor was stunned. HMPH. Lin Fan had completely given up on defending. He was all on the offensive to kill. Heaven Queen, I doubt the Saint Emperor's able to take down this lad alone. Let's help him out. Heavens will spoke out. He truly had not expected this lad to be this strong. Even though it was only a strain of the Namo Saint Emperor's consciousness, he was supposed to be an entity that no one in this world should be able to deal with. After remaining silent for a moment, Heaven Queen nodded her head. All right, let's do it. Ha ha ha, good. If the three of us strike together, does this lad still think that he can take us down? The pressure being exerted on the Namo Saint Emperor had turned weaker as he finally had time to take a breather. That's good. If the three of you strike together, then yours truly can just take down all of you together. Lin Fan took in a deep breath of air. The power of this Namo Saint Emperor was strong indeed. Just what sort of existence was the upper world? To think that even a strain of consciousness would be this strong. That was unimaginable. Now that he had exchanged blows with this Namo Saint Emperor, he had a better understanding of the other party's strength. He wasn't really that bothered about the Heaven Queen. But the heavens will. Lin Fan was wary about him. Even though this was only 1/4 of his original self, this was still an existence that had survived through the eras. This was no small fry. Boom! Suddenly, the mountains and ground trembled as a massive aura erupted out from Lin Fan's body. A rip was slowly torn in the void. From within, countless energy grid line chains appeared, densely packed together and carrying a boundless amount of power with them. How can this be? Just how many energy grid line chains have this kid cultivated? The Namo Saint Emperor's face changed in disbelief. If he had to fight alone without the Heavens Will and Heaven Queen, he might truly not have been a match for this kid. Losing would then just be a matter of time. Instantly, Lin Fan activated stealth. He disappeared from where he was in the blink of an eye. I can't sense his presence. Heavens Will called out hurriedly. Heaven's Eye. With that, a pair of gigantic eyes appeared in the sky. Nothing in this world could escape from the gaze of these eyes. It's useless, Heaven's Will. That kid's invisibility move is too strong. We can only try to feel for his presence through the ripples in the air. The Namo Saint Emperor's face was focused as he spread out his consciousness throughout the entire training grounds. It could feel every bit of tremor from the ground and every ripple from the voids. Watch out, that kid's around you. Suddenly, Namo Saint Emperor called out to Heaven Queen. Heaven Queen frowned as she tried to react to it. But to Lin Fan, it was all too late. Heaven Queen, tremble under my hands. Lin Fan appeared instantly before Heaven Queen. Black Tiger Steel's heart. Lin Fan's eyes flashed with malice. It's been a long time since he had used this skill. Heaven Queen's face changed as the void around her trembled. But to Lin Fan, everything was as weak as paper. Bam! Lin Fan's fist found their way onto the chest of Heaven Queen. Instantly, Heaven Queen's chest jerked violently as a deep pain surged through her head. At the same time, there was a sense of shame that accompanied that pain. Ugh! Heaven Queen half kneeled on the ground, spitting out a mouthful of blood as her face changed immediately. She was using all her will to bear the pain while her teeth chattered incessantly. Just what sort of a move was that? How was that so terrifying? In fact, Heaven Queen noticed that her chest had grown even bigger. Heaven Queen, what's wrong? The faces of the Saint Emperor and Heavens Will changed as they asked out in unison. The Heaven Queen was sweating profusely right now. While struggling, she raised her hand, unable to speak. Let's help Heaven Queen. Heavens Will exchanged glances with Saint Emperor as they both darted towards Lin Fan. Heaven Queen, you must pay for your sins of that day. At this moment, Lin Fan recalled senior brother Meng Yongchong. He was the senior brother who was burnt to ashes by the Heaven Queen's flames. Heaven Queen had not expected Lin Fan to be this strong. But just as she was about to open her mouth to complain, her hair were tugged backward by Lin Fan. That peerlessly flawless face of the Heaven Queen was tilted up towards the sky. Her dazzling brilliance caused the rest of the world to seem darker in comparison. Suddenly, an illusory image of a gigantic fist appeared from the skies and pummeled down onto her face. Bam! The entire fist landed squarely on the Heaven Queen's face, causing the latter to be stuck to the ground. As though the earth could not withstand the destructive force of Lin Fan's punch, the ground began to crack out like ripples, extending out a few hundred miles. Even though you're a woman, vengeance does not differentiate between genders. You've asked for this, Lin Fan hollered. Bam! In that instant, the fists of the Saint Emperor and Heavens will landed together on Lin Fan's back. Ding! Eternal immortality experience points plus. ... Suddenly, Lin Fan's blood surged. With a single wild roar, he turned around and retaliated with wrath. The 9-5 legendary brick appeared in his palm suddenly as he slammed out towards the brains of the Namo Saint Emperor. What's this? The Namo Saint Emperor's face changed. What was this red rectangular-looking thing? Just what was it? Even though he couldn't feel any energy rippling from it, an unknown sense of danger surged through his head. Kid, don't go overboard. Namo Saint Emperor raised both his hands to defend against the oncoming brick. Lin Fan's eyes flashed. True Origin's crushing kick. Bam! A single kick to destroy the origins of life found its way slamming down at the crotch of the Namo Saint Emperor. Namo Saint Emperor had not expected this lad to be this despicable. He tried to escape. Running away. No go. Instantly, Lin Fan kept the 9-5 legendary brick in his storage and held onto the arm of the Namo Saint Emperor with a death grip. Bam! The sky turned dark and grim. Suddenly, a bright ray of sun seemed to be splitting the heavens apart. Heaven Will's sharp weapon. Looking at the scene before him, Heavens Will roared in anger as well. A semicircular heavenly weapon appeared in his hand instantly as he cleaved down at Lin Fan's legs. Shing, shing, fresh blood sprayed out. The blood stained the entire sky. ... Translator's thoughts. Lamb. I am dying from these long chapters, ha ha ha. Anyways, I'm refraining from using Empyrean for the upper world because I don't know if the author is actually referring to the heavens or anything. Also, the weapon that Heavens Will used reminds me of the blood dagger from MapleStory used by bandits. Ha ha ha, cheers. Chapter 412. Both sides are swollen. Chapter 412. Both sides are swollen. Arg, the Namo Saint Emperor laid on the ground howling furiously. What sort of skill is that? How can the pain penetrate through my eternally invincible will? No matter how hard the Namo Saint Emperor resisted, he could not stop the pain from infiltrating the depths of his heart. No, I can't. Instantly, the strain of consciousness escaped out from Han Lu's body. It was only after this that the Namo Saint Emperor managed to regain some normalcy. At the same time, he was filled with caution towards Lin Fan's move. Even though he was just a strain of his own consciousness right now, his will was indestructible. How was it that he was pained to a point where he almost broke down entirely? Just then, Namo Saint Emperor spotted a black-robed man in the distance. This black-robed person had been hiding all this while, as though she was shocked entirely by the scene before him. Heavens Will, hold on for me, I'll go and seek a host. The tuft of white mist then bolted towards the black-robed man. All right, Heavens Will nodded his head. I've already severed one of the kid's legs. His movement should be hindered by a huge amount. ... Suddenly, Namo Saint Emperor appeared in front of the black-robed person, intending to take over the latter. The black-robed person's expression tightened at the sight of this tuft of white smoke and struck out. Give up on resisting, I'll borrow your body for a bit. In front of the Namo Saint Emperor, the black-robed person's strength was absolutely minuscule, and was overtaken by the Namo Saint Emperor in an instant. But just then, a yell came out from the mouth of the black-robed person. How can this be? This body of yin and yang? How can a body type such as this appear right here? The Namo Saint Emperor howled as though he was undergoing immense pain. Upon hearing these words, the face of the Heavens Will changed as well. A body of yin and yang. This was one of the strangest body types ever. How could this appear within Xuanwang world? Impossible, absolutely impossible. Furthermore, one must be born with such a body. It was something that was extremely hard to obtain. Instantly, the Namo Saint Emperor burst out of the black-robed person's body, evidently unable to adapt to that body of yin and yang. B-starred. Since that's the case, seems like there's only one way then. After hesitating for a moment, the Namo Saint Emperor entered Han Lu's body once more. The moment it entered Han Lu's body, that tragic howl rang out again. Arg! This heart-wrenching howl filled the entire place. The Namo Saint Emperor was ruthlessly decisive. Gritting his teeth tightly, he decided to bear through the entire ordeal. Lin Fan laid at a corner, his breathing heavy. He was pretty curious about that Heaven's Will sharp weapon indeed. What sort of weapon was that to be able to cut through this body? Incredible indeed. Other than the fact that he was at an imperishable physical body state, he was imbued with the protection of the energy grid line chains. As such, his physical body state was extremely tough. The Heaven's Will was strong indeed. Even with 3/4 of its original state being split away, the source of its powers was still definitely strong. But even if that were the case, so what? He had already made up his mind. It was either he or they who would die today. There should only be one man, or the three of them left standing today. Within that endless deep crevasse that was dug, a figure gently floated up. Heaven Queen was covering up her face, with her body shuddering uncontrollably. Ugh! A mouthful of blood spat out from her mouth. She had not expected Lin Fan to be so ruthless. She was a woman. Damn it! God damn it! Heaven Queen! Looking at Heaven Queen who was covering her face, even Heaven's Will did not know what else to say. Lin Fan, you be ****. I'm a woman. Heaven Queen was truly riled right now. Any woman, let alone Heaven Queen, would be especially concerned about their appearances. Even though she was only a strain of consciousness, her pursuit of beauty had never ever vanished because of that. So what if you're a woman? Yours truly have already made my words clear. Either you guys die or yours truly shall. Lin Fan laid there with his heavy breathing as his blood sea was working hard. Lin Fan, now that you've already lost a leg, you still wish to fight us to the death. Okay then, today, I shall take you down once and for all. Heaven's Will's voice was commanding. Heaven's Will, what are you still talking about? Strike now while the iron's hot. What else are you waiting for? Barely tiding through his pain, Namo Saint Emperor yelled out. Ha ha, Lin Fan reared his head and laughed wildly. You guys wanna take me down with just the three of you? Stop dreaming. It was at this moment that the three of them realized that the severed leg of Lin Fan was slowly growing back out. HMPH, Heaven's Will, seems like I was way too careless just now. To think that that sharp weapon of yours could really sever at the body of yours truly. Seems like that's pretty useful after all. Lin Fan laughed coldly. Just what sort of skills have you been cultivating for you to be able to regrow your limbs? The Namo Saint Emperor's face was fraught with disbelief. Even in the upper world, being able to regrow limbs was something that only those of an extremely high state of being could achieve. How could a mere being of Xuanwang world possess such abilities? Shut your nonsense. In that instant, Lin Fan, who had healed up completely, burst out at the three of them. This time round, Lin Fan's target was the Heaven's Will. That sharp weapon was simply way too dangerous. He definitely had to get rid of it first. Nirvana finger. In that instant, the void seemed to be like a mirror as it shattered apart layer by layer. A devastating aura found its way towards the group of people. Firmament sword. Firmament. One by one, all these ridiculously strong attacks were being dished out as though they were freebies. Lin Fan wanted to fight them head-on. Even though the three of them definitely had a lower cultivation state than himself, their sources were extremely deep. Therefore, the sorts of skills they could produce would definitely be unimaginable and hard to deal with. Seemed like people of the upper world were different levels of beings indeed. But that wasn't a reason for him to fear them. Heaven's Will, that guy's headed for you. Namo Saint Emperor yelled out. That elderly face of the Heaven's Will could not help but crumple up. Might of Heaven's Will. Boom! Within those boundless skies, a massive aura erupted outward, causing the entire sky to lose its color temporarily. The might of Heaven's Will slowly concentrated into a massive fist and punched down from the heavens towards Lin Fan. HMPH, Heaven's Will, yours truly will kill you off first today. With a howl, all the energy grid line chains within Lin Fan's body burst out. Joining together, they formed a huge fist and punched back out. Boom! That formidable collision seemed to have enough force to annihilate everything in sight as a gigantic explosion happened in the sky. In that instant, Heaven Queen and Namo Saint Emperor struck out towards Lin Fan with a boundless amount of power as well. But, Lin Fan wasn't bothered in the least bit. Wielding the eternal axe, he slammed out towards the Heaven's Will. I'll cut you, I'll cut you, bam! Each time Lin Fan slammed down with the axe, the violent force seemed to be ripping a part of the void apart. True Origin's crushing kick, 9-5 legendary brick. Twisting heaven and earth, ... At this moment, Lin Fan's attacks were switching at an extreme speed, such that even the Heaven's Will could barely catch up. B-starred thing, how could he use such despicable moves? Lin Fan was filled with disdain towards the way people in Xuanwang world fought. All of them were so silly. These guys were just practically competing to see whose head-on powers were stronger. As for Lin Fan's method, his way was to use all sorts of violent means to take everything down. And, if that couldn't work, then he would use all sorts of cheap moves to deal in sneak attacks. Rawr! Suddenly, Heaven Queen appeared beside Lin Fan as her eyes shone with anger. But right in that instant, a colossal fist that seemed to have penetrated through the void appeared right behind Heaven Queen. Bam! Heaven Queen, you smelly B***tch. Yours truly will take care of you later. Lin Fan tossed her a dirty look before putting all his attention on the sharp weapon of the Heavens Will once more. Once more, the peerlessly beautiful face of Heaven Queen received yet another punch. In that instant, her petite body shot down to the ground from the sky once more. That massive force was working its way at destroying the beautiful features of the Heaven Queen. By now, both her left and right cheeks were extremely swollen. That initially V-shaped face of hers was now square-shaped. B*****. Suddenly, Lin Fan's eyes shone really brightly. Twisting heaven and earth. Finally, Lin Fan had caught an opening and struck out at the Heaven's Will. Arg! A terrible wail came out of the Heaven Will's mouth. Using that chance, Lin Fan snatched over the Heaven Will's sharp weapon. The weapon struggled intensely in Lin Fan's arm, sending down a lightning surge that coursed through his arm, as though it wanted to break free. You better go wait obediently. With that, Lin Fan tossed the sharp weapon into his storage. Finally, it was time to give these guys a good torturing. Translator's thoughts. Lamb. Okay guys, I have finally found the likely suspect of the black-robed person. Chapter 43, That Black-Robed Person. But on another note, back then the author named this person Zong Henshin. That's right, even the name in the RAS is the exact same one as our Zong Henshin back in Glory Sect. Is this another plotline or a plot hole? We shall wait and see whether or not it's even that same person. Cheers. Chapter 413, Tyrannically Obliterating the Field. Chapter 413, Tyrannically Obliterating the Field. Return me the Heaven Will's sharp weapon. Looking at this man who had just stolen his treasure, Heaven Will hollered out with bloodshot eyes. The Heaven Will's sharp weapon was something that was born and grew together with the Heaven's Will itself. It could sever anything within Xuanwang world such as time, the future, karmic cycles, etc. But now that the Heaven's Will had 3/4 of itself cut away, the sharp weapon naturally could not unleash its fullest potential. At the same time, the sharp weapon only recognized the Heaven's Will as its owner and would answer to no one else. However, now that Lin Fan had confiscated it, the Heaven's Will was getting anxious on realizing that it wasn't able to communicate with its weapon. Return your mother. Seems like you've got some tenacity To think that you can still hold on after receiving yours truly's twisting heaven and earth. Lin Fan was bewildered at the same time. Twisting heaven and earth changed the yin and yang of its victims. To think that this Heaven Will had not turned into an old granny from an old man. That was puzzling indeed. Could it be that this Heaven's Will had both yin and yang within its body as well? Could it switch between sexes interchangeably? And in fact, Lin Fan's idea wasn't far off. The Heaven's Will was truly not defined by gender. But in order to let itself have more authority and have greater vicissitude, the will of the Heaven's Will would always present itself in this elderly figure with long swaying white hair. You, Heaven's Will howled out in rage. Just as it tried to fight back, Lin Fan had found his way right onto the big face of the Heaven's Will. Heaven's Will, today, yours truly shall hammer you to death. With that, Lin Fan rained down punches on that face of the Heaven's Will. Bam, bam, a mighty force erupted out from Lin Fan's figure, and the heavens shook with it. Under the attacks of Lin Fan, Heaven's Will was wailing out constantly. Every single punch struck where it hurt. The face was a mess of blood and meat as the grounds were stained red with fresh blood. Seeing this, Namo Saint Emperor and Heaven Queen's hearts took a massive dive as they burst out towards Lin Fan. B****, let go of the Heaven's Will. The Namo Saint Emperor was completely riled. To think that he would meet such an opponent in this tiny little Kangling continent that he couldn't even have the strength to retaliate. This was a humiliation. If he had known that this would be the case, he would have left one more strain of consciousness back then. With that, he wouldn't have to suffer the same humiliation he was enduring right now. Bam, bam, Namo Saint Emperor and Heaven Queen's attacks struck out at Lin Fan's back, but Lin Fan ignored them completely. These two were strong indeed. Each time their attacks landed, he could feel his blood rumbling. However, with the boost of eternal immortality, he could still withstand their blows. At the same time, he could convert these damages received into experience points. Ding. Eternal immortality experience points plus 100 million feet. Ding. Eternal immortality experience points plus 100 million feet. ... Arg. Namo Saint Emperor howled out in chagrin. Just what sort of level was this fella's physical body state at for him to be completely fine even while he was being attacked by both him and Heaven Queen? The higher one's physical body state got, the tougher it was to cultivate it further. Heaven's will. Yours truly will make sure your head turns into that of a pig. Lin Fan continued raining punch after punch on that face of the Heaven's will. By now, there was no need to even resort to skills. Every single punch he dished out was filled with immense power. This feeling of punching directly in his face blow after blow was way too great. Arg. Heaven's will screamed. B****. Namo Saint Emperor and Heaven Queen continued to punch out at Lin Fan's back. In fact, they used all sorts of murderous moves. But to their dismay, it was as though this fella had no fear at all, as he disregarded them entirely. Right now, Lin Fan was yelling in rage. Both of his fists were raining down quickly in a flurry like a thunderstorm. His punches were so quick and dense that one could neither catch the speed nor react to it. As the energy of the punches was being sent through, the ground was getting sunken in. Within that deep trench that was forming, a series of wails were sending shivers down everyone's spines. B****, why are you only hitting me? Heaven's will was totally stupefied right now. It wasn't as though he had murdered this guy's entire family, nor was it as though he was the only one present right now. But why was he the one being targeted so badly? HMPH, you're the one who deserves it. How dare you act cool in front of yours truly? You don't have to fucking dream about escaping today. Lin Fan's frenzied look caused the hearts of both Namo Saint Emperor and Heaven Queen to skip a beat. Finally, they felt a deep sense of fear. Just what sort of a man was this person? How was he this strong? Can you stop whacking my face? Heaven's will cried out. Even though he was the Heaven's will, it was as though his face had lost every single last bit of feeling. All he could feel right now was numbness and swelling. HMPH, fine. Upon hearing that, Lin Fan stood up. Startled, both Namo Saint Emperor and Heaven Queen stumbled back a few steps. It was as though this kid was ready to take it out on them instead. Heaven's will, yours truly shall fulfill your request. I won't whack your face any longer then. I'll use my legs to stomp your face. Lin Fan raised his right leg. Infusing it with the power of the energy grid line chains, he stomped down harshly. Rapid flying stomp. Bam 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 bam. Ah, that sorrowful howl rang out into the skies. Never had the Heavens will ever imagined that he would have a day like this. To think that he would be beaten up by a life under his control, that too in such a humiliating manner. Heaven Queen, what should we do? Namo Saint Emperor was totally dumbfounded. He no longer knew what he should do anymore. By now, he knew that they were definitely no match for this lad with their current strength. Heaven Queen looked at Namo Saint Emperor. That swollen face of hers had finally gotten normal. She then clenched her teeth and called out, Lin Fan, you can't kill the Heaven's will. Once the Heaven's will dies, Kangling continent will disappear. With that, everyone in it will die because of you. The moment Heaven Queen finished her words, Lin Fan's action stopped. Namo Saint Emperor and Heaven Queen heaved out a sigh of relief. But in that instant, Heaven Queen's heart jerked. She had an ominous feeling. Her heart couldn't stop thumping, especially after she caught sight of Lin Fan's expression. What do you want? Looking at Lin Fan, who was approaching her slowly, Heaven Queen stumbled back yet another few steps. Bam! A punch landed on Heaven Queen's face. What do you think? That peerlessly beautiful face of Heaven Queen, which had just recovered, started to swell up once more. You can't do this. Bam! Oh, I can't. Then, when can I? Each time the Heaven Queen spoke, Lin Fan punched. Back then. Bam! Back then your mother. Once more, Lin Fan's punch landed on the Heaven Queen's eyes, turning her into a panda straight away. What do you want? Heaven Queen was totally at a loss right now as she finally screamed out. What do I want? I'll let you know what I want. He sent out another punch with a massive thud sound. He did not hold back at all just because she was a peerless beauty. I am the upper worlds. Upper your mother. Lin Fan did not give the latter a chance to speak. The moment she opened her mouth, she received yet another punch. In the blink of an eye, that peerlessly beautiful face had turned into a pig's head. Other than that exquisite body, which was still a sight to behold, everything else was disgusting and hard to take in. Standing where he was, the Namo Saint Emperor was in a thorough daze right now. He would rather be killed by this fella instantly than to have to endure such torments. The heart of the Heaven Queen was filled with boundless rage. Yet, at the same time, she was filled with a deep fear in front of this Lin Fan right now. This was the difference between power. There was no room for her to retaliate at all. Enough. Back then, I did not wish to annihilate Saint Devil's sect either, but Heaven Queen was finding it hard to speak right now. Shut the FCK up. You did what you did. There's no need to try reasoning it now. The moment Lin Fan heard the Heaven Queen trying to come up with an excuse, he was filled with a newfound rage. At that moment, his eyes shone with a sparkle once more. Black Tiger steals heart. Black Tiger steals heart. ... At that moment, Lin Fan's shadow hand appeared once more. Bam 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 bam. Lin Fan did not even know how many times he had struck out. It was so many that he couldn't even count any longer. Even the notifications by the systems were ringing continuously non-stop. The moment Lin Fan stopped, a tragic wail rang through the skies. Heaven Queen had collapsed onto the ground entirely. Those eyes of hers were filled with an immense fear. She had found out that her chest was about to explode. Translator's thoughts. Lamb lamb. Oh, sweet sweet revenge. Chapter 414, Booting Up the Training Program. Chapter 414, Booting Up the Training Program. Looking at Lin Fan's gaze towards himself, Namo Saint Emperor's heart jerked for a moment. At the same time, he was filled with immense remorse. Why did he only choose to send down a single strain of his consciousness back then? If he had just sent down that bit more, he would be able to take down this lad right now. But alas, it was all too late. Kid, I'll admit that you are strong. But this is only a single strain of your emperor's consciousness. Rest assured that your emperor will descend upon Xuanwang world one day and crush you entirely. Namo Saint Emperor gritted his teeth. He had already achieved the status of an emperor, and his mental frame was already at a state where he was undisturbed by most things. To think that he would actually be riled to a frenzy by this lad who exploited deplorable moves thoroughly. One could kill, but one should not humiliate. The seed of this vengeance was now sowed. Oh, and I'm supposed to be scared of you. Take down yours truly. Sure, come on then if you've got the guts. Yours truly will skin you alive, do you believe me? Lin Fan tossed a dirty glance at Namo Saint Emperor. Even though Lin Fan acknowledged his strength, yours truly wasn't afraid in the least bit. Looking at Lin Fan, Namo Saint Emperor's face began to calm down. Suddenly, a surge of energy burst out, as though it was about to rip the void apart. Fine, I truly did not expect to meet with an abnormal one such as yourself today. So be it, I'll fight you to the death. Namo Saint Emperor was no longer thinking about staying alive. Even though it would be a pity to lose a strain of consciousness, it didn't matter anymore. This plan that he had laid down over 10,000 years ago had failed at this moment. The holy jade bottle was something that he had brought down from the upper world through his consciousness. The reason for that was to seek out a suitable host. N-O-V-E in .c ohm. However, in all these years, there was no one he had taken sight to. To think that he would finally meet one, yet, this person was doomed to perish today. Seemed like this was fate after all. There was nothing he could control about this. Lin Fan squinted his eyes at the Namo Saint Emperor. Was this kiddo trying to act like he sought a deathmatch just so that he could get slapped to death in an instant? Hey, how could things get so easy for him? Since he was here, it would be an insult to Lin Fan's memory if he didn't torture this guy thoroughly. Boom. In that instant, a tremendous source of energy burst out and split the void into two halves. Like a gigantic knife that cleaved the seas apart, a torrent of energy gushed upwards from the split. The Namo Saint Emperor was going at it for real now. That single strain of consciousness released its final flash of brilliance. Lin Fan frowned. He could sense a mysterious form of power within that aura. That wasn't the power of energy grid line chains. Based on just his intuition alone, he could sense that the power was even stronger than that of energy grid line chains. But what a pity, it was far from enough. Kid, your emperor will never forget this. In that instant, a bright light flashed out as the Namo Saint Emperor dashed out at Lin Fan instantaneously. He wanted to use his strongest move to kill Lin Fan right here. Ho ho, then I'll offer you my gratitude in advance. But what a pity, you wish to die right here, right? How could I let you die this easily? Lin Fan sniggered sinisterly. Namo Saint Emperor's face changed. He had a bad feeling about this. In a split second, Lin Fan appeared right before Namo Saint Emperor and sent a massive punch towards his stomach. Bam! A punch containing a tremendous amount of power found itself on the Namo Saint Emperor's belly in that instant. A massive surge of energy pierced through the heaven and earth. Ugh! Fear filled the eyes of the Namo Saint Emperor as he spat out a mouthful of fresh blood uncontrollably. I'll feed you some medicine now to help you feel better, alright? The moment the Namo Saint Emperor's mouth fell open, Lin Fan slapped on his storage and slammed a large amount of bigras into his mouth. What did you feed me? The pills melted the moment they entered his mouth, turning into a warm, soothing feeling that flowed down into his belly. Oh, good stuff of course. You can't even buy these things with money, man. Lin Fan stood a few steps back and chuckled at the Namo Saint Emperor. He wondered what would happen to someone after they consumed such a large amount of bigras. This was a first indeed. Suddenly, Lin Fan's expression changed. The features of Namo Saint Emperor's face were starting to change as well. He was red like lava. Tufts of smoke began to shoot out from the head of Namo Saint Emperor. Just what in the world did you feed your emperor? Namo Saint Emperor's face was filled with fear as he started to realize the changes in his body. His crotch area was supposed to be rendered completely destroyed after that fabulous kick from Lin Fan. But to the astonishment of Namo Saint Emperor, his crotch was rising rapidly as though it was about to break through the heavens. Oh, I wanna FCK the ground. Suddenly, a shameful thought floated through the mind of the Namo Saint Emperor. But the moment this thought appeared, the Namo Saint Emperor used all his willpower to shove the thought aside. To his dismay, the thought only grew more intense by the second. It was as though his body was unable to control the urge to do something as shameful as that as well. Bam, and no. In that instant, Namo Saint Emperor laid flat down on the ground. B****, how dare you humiliate your emperor? Your emperor will never let you off. Namo Saint Emperor howled in rage. He wanted to force his consciousness out of this body. But what sort of pill was this? How was it tying his consciousness so tightly to this physical body as well? Oh, you can slowly FCK the ground first. I'll come back and deal with you later. Lin Fan waved his hand dismissively at the Namo Saint Emperor. He then looked at the completely dumbfounded Heaven Queen and snorted coldly. Just these three and they hoped to be able to take down yours truly. Dreamers they were indeed. If yours truly would go down with just a single strain of consciousness of these guys, Lin Fan would have lived his life for absolutely nothing. Lin Fan came before the Heaven's will. Right now, the Heaven's will was the most exploitable. What do you want? I'm the Heaven's will. If I die, the entire Kangling continent will perish along with me. In fact, even you will die. The Heaven's will was starting to feel fear. He had not expected a being whose life was under him to be this strong. Even with their combined forces, the three of them could not take him down at all. Just how strong was this fella? If one were to consider cultivation state alone, Lin Fan might not truly be that high up. But considering the energy grid line chains that he possessed, he was definitely a terrifying existence. Coupled with his array of wacky skills, he was totally unpredictable. No matter how strong one was, as long as they received his attack, they would be rendered practically dead. Oh, Heaven's will, don't bother howling out. Don't worry, yours truly wouldn't kill you. But, you're not gonna be any well off either. Grabbing him by the ankles, Lin Fan pulled the Heaven's will along. Let me go, I'm the Heaven's will, you can't kill me. Being dragged along the way, Heaven's will howled at the top of his lungs. Oh my, how the world has changed. To think that even the Heaven's will would know fear. I pity all of us who are living under your control. Lin Fan shook his head in disapproval. Even though I don't know what the three of you are up to, it doesn't matter to me any longer. Honestly, if you guys hadn't appeared to stop yours truly, nothing would have happened to you. You guys should only blame yourselves for interfering where you shouldn't, when you don't have the capabilities to do so. Lin Fan continued. He had heard the conversation between these three. The upper world and whatnot. Who the hell cared? Lin Fan would sort things out when it came to it. For now, yours truly was here solely for vengeance. No matter how strong or mighty you are, if you stand in the way of yours truly, F***ck you up as well then. And there was absolutely no way he was letting them go. Otherwise, what was the use of training up so hard for all these years? Let me go. Heavens will continue to howl and struggle. But in the arms of Lin Fan, none of these mattered. Heavenly pillars. Come on out. Lin Fan took out a heavenly pillar from his storage and planted it on the ground. At the same time, he tied up Heaven's will on it. You're the Heaven's will. If you die, the world shall perish. Of course, I believe that. But still, those words ain't gonna threaten yours truly, man. Looking at Heaven's will, Lin Fan took out a long whip from his storage. Slapping it violently on the ground, a loud crack rang out. Trainer profession. I wonder if I can train up the Heaven's will as well. Time to test out this profession's true capabilities. Namo Saint Emperor, who had been FC-king the ground happily, looked over at Lin Fan's side. He was enraged, wondering what Lin Fan was up to. At this moment, Heaven Queen was seated on the ground crippled as well. Her humongous chest was about to explode. She no longer knew what to say about the man before her. How could he be this unreasonable? Chapter 415, Activating the Final Skill. Chapter 415, Activating the Final Skill. Kid, if you let me go now, I can forgive everything you've done. Otherwise, you shall pay for your actions for the rest of your life. Heaven's Will, who was being leashed up to the heavenly pillar, yelled out. The heavens were supposed to be emotionless and impartial. However, as time passed, feelings, emotions, and desires began to blossom within the Heaven's Will. With that, the notion of all living beings being equal ceased to exist. In its place, emphasis was to be placed on the bigger picture of things instead. Lin Fan ignored the Heaven's Will entirely while twisting the whip in his hand. His lips twisted into a bone-chilling smile. This whip is called the Training Whip. 9 feet and 2 inches long, this was crafted from the tendons of a greater celestial beast. It can lengthen and shrink. It can go in and come out. It can be gentle, and it can be rough. Lin Fan started muttering softly. The elderly Heaven's Will could not help but gulp down his saliva. His heart was thumping furiously right now. It was as though he knew that the scene that awaited him was going to be the scariest the world had ever seen. Heaven's Will, you ought to rejoice. When this whip was crafted, the sky changed colors and thunder rumbled. This whip has never been used before because no one would be able to endure it. But you're going to be the first. Lin Fan glared at Heaven's Will and said slowly. Why you? What are you trying to do? Heaven's Will glared back at Lin Fan with frightful eyes. Ever since he had come into existence, he had never come across a man so devious. Even that fella, that supreme being, all he did was to split the world into half, and that was it. But this man here, he was practically a devil. He was a devil who specialized in torture. To think that he was the mighty Heaven's Will. How could he be enduring such humiliation right now? No, I'm the Heaven's Will, you'll suffer divine retribution for this. The Heaven's Will yelled out with threats. Suddenly, lightning crackled as though they were about to crack the entire sky open. The force in the sky that was gathering was gradually getting violent. Those purple thunderbolts looked as though they were about to destroy the world. Oh ho, seems like you like to play it rough, Looking at the purple thunderbolts, Lin Fan was startled. Seemed like whether or not one was a human, everyone had a little bit of wildness in their hearts. Heaven's Will was like a fish that laid on the chopping board right now. There was no way he's getting out of this alive. But now that he has summoned out the divine retribution on his own accord, didn't this just mean that he wanted to spice things up with more ingredients? Not bad, not bad. Even though Lin Fan could hardly bear to look this guy straight in the eye, he naturally couldn't let down the wishes of the Heaven's Will himself. Boom! A massive purple thunderbolt struck down from the heavens. The void in the proximity was shaking up as a result. Looking at this scene, Heaven's Will's heart had given up entirely. The only reason why he did this was to find some sort of solace for himself. He didn't actually bear any hopes of this being able to kill the other party. Twisting his wrist, Lin Fan flicked out his whip and coiled the entire purple thunderbolt around the whip. Heaven's Will, since you like it this way, yours truly shall grant your wishes. All out, the Tao of Training, tread forth without courage. The first stance, Whip of Training. ... The long whip was like a snake right now with the power of the electricity cruising through its entire length. Along with Lin Fan's massive swing, a loud cracking sound rang through the entire sky. This thick whip landed smoothly on the body of Heaven's Will. Heaven's Will had already prepared himself to cry out in pain to try to relieve some of that pain on his body. But in that instant, Heaven's Will was stunned. He realized that something was not the same as he had imagined. That whip wasn't so painful after all. In fact, there was a weird mushy sensation along with it. This weird sensation cruised through his entire being. There was even a feeling of shame mixed within it. Looking at the way the Heaven's Will was behaving, Lin Fan was surprised as well. This was the first time something like this had happened. Seemed like Heaven's Will was not getting angered by this embarrassment. Could this guy have a masochistic tendency to begin with? Seems like I've got to turn up on the violence knob. Lin Fan was silent for a moment. He then started moving again as the whips danced in the sky like agile snakes. Heaven's Will's clothes were torn apart, leaving him entirely nude. Insolent, Heaven's Will was in the midst of reminiscing about that pleasurable sensation before when he realized that he was feeling a chill through his entire body. That was when he realized his clothes were gone. He was the Heaven's Will. How could he suffer such humiliation? Lin Fan heaved a sigh of relief. Finally, this guy was back to normal. If this guy weren't feeling shameful in the least bit, how could Lin Fan's training program continue? Heaven's Will, endure it properly. PSCHHHHH. 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 B** starred. ... At this moment, the entire place was silent except for the cracking of the whips. Namo Saint Emperor was going all out king the ground with all of his strength. By now, the entire earth was cracking apart with the enormous force being exerted by the Namo Saint Emperor. This feeling was uncontrollable. It was as though he no longer had any will to control the actions of his own body. Looking at Heaven's Will being tied up there and undergoing such torture, Namo Saint Emperor's heart could not help but jerk for a moment. How could someone like that exist in this world? Heaven Queen was still seated where she was, crippled. Her face was entirely pale with shock. What if that fella started treating her the same way as the Heaven's Will? What should she do? Heaven Queen was truly afraid right now. It was as though she was about to face the cruelest thing that could descend on earth. Heaven's Will, how does it feel? With every whip that Lin Fan sent out, ripples appeared through the sky as he looked at Heaven's Will straight in the eyes. This trainer profession was marvelous in more ways than one. In fact, there even was an ultimate move that was yet to be used. But, the progress of training varied according to the person involved. The willpower of an existence such as the Heaven's Will was definitely stronger than most people. As such, there was a need to turn up the intensity of training. I will never let you off. Even while the Heaven's Will was yelling out, there was a ripple that was coursing through his heart. Every single whip that landed on his body brought about a small feeling of shame. And in turn, that feeling of shame was converted into one of pleasure. Seems like it's not enough yet. Don't blame yours truly then. With that, Lin Fan took in a deep breath and coiled the long whip around his arm. Ultimate hidden skill, air flower style whipping. With that, Lin Fan moved. The long whip danced into the sky and dug in deep at every single part of the Heaven's Will's body. The sky changed colors as the winds began to howl. The power of lightning surged down from the heaven and channeled itself into the whip. Ah, Heaven's Will's cries became more pronounced. He realized that the feeling of shame was getting ever stronger, as though it was about to occupy his heart altogether. How could a situation like this ever happen? This was a form of humiliation to himself. No. Heaven's Will could not stop screaming, as the tsunamis of shame slammed down onto his heart one wave after another. The FCK, yours truly refused to believe that this wouldn't work. Looking at how the Heaven's Will was still holding on with his willpower, Lin Fan was indignant. Don't tell me that even the ultimate hidden skill of air flower whipping style could untain this Heaven's Will. PSCHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHThe sky fell silent. That violent scene would be etched in the memories of the Namo Saint Emperor for the rest of his life, completely stumped. As for Heaven Queen, she was shivering uncontrollably from the start till end. Ding! Congratulations on training Heaven's Will. Final ultimate technique of training activated, one whip to rule the world. Ding! System will automatically demonstrate once. User should pay close attention and not blink. Holy **T. For real, Lin Fan was stunned. He did not expect to be able to unlock the most powerful move of all. In fact, the name itself sounded extremely cocky. Chapter 416, How Dare You Seduce Me? Chapter 416, How Dare You Seduce Me? N-O-V-E in .c Ohm. One whip to rule the world. As Lin Fan muttered out these words softly, he couldn't help but remember another similar phrase. While it might be coarser than this, the meaning should be similar. Lin Fan stopped whatever he was doing. Heaven's Will, who was wailing and struggling, came to a startled stop as well, as though this change in intensity was causing him to feel uncomfortable. He glanced at Lin Fan blankly, wondering why the other party had stopped. Was it because he was finally fearful of the heavens? Had this man finally realized that his actions were sinful in the eyes of the world? But along with that thought, Heaven's Will felt as though something was missing from his heart. There was an unspeakable void in his heart. Heaven's Will wanted to speak up when his expression changed. He had just realized that the aura around Lin Fan was changing. A feeling of subjugation burst out from Lin Fan. Under this repressive aura, it was as though the entire world was dark, without a single spark of light. What are you doing? Heavens Will stared at Lin Fan with immense focus while his heart skipped a beat. This aura was causing him to feel fearful once more. It was as though the being standing before him wasn't a giant, but a colossal titan instead. Those eyes, which were shut just now, opened up once more, as a bright flash of light emitted from those pupils. It seemed as though they could see through everything in this world. Tao. This is the Tao. Heaven's Will was stunned, with a look of disbelief, apparently unable to take in everything right now. This world had given birth to him, and hence he was the only Tao in this world. A living, breathing Tao. And when one reached the ultimate state of cultivation and broke through every single layer of barrier there was, one would break free from everything and become the Tao. But, it had been forever since anyone had ever achieved it. To think that the man before him would be enlightened. This was a marvelous feeling. He was thoroughly anticipating this final ultimate skill of training. Lin Fan raised his hand gently. That hand which was raised tore the void apart immediately, with a long whip stood upright, as though it was nurturing something. Heavens Will looked at the whip in shock. He could feel a really repressive aura. Final ultimate technique of training. One whip to rule the world. Boom. The moment Lin Fan spoke up, the heavens and earth trembled. As though it was unable to withstand the might of the whip, the void began to rip apart continuously. And no, looking at the whip descending from the sky, Heaven's Will's heart sank deeply as he screamed at the top of his lungs. Ah! Breaking through layers of void, the whip had finally landed on the body of the Heaven's Will. While there wasn't much destructive power with the whip itself, there was a mysterious sensation that shot right into the heart of the Heaven's Will. Ah! The elderly face of Heaven's Will moaned. In that instant, that pale white face of his was flushed red. The final defense of his heart had toppled over entirely under the crushing tsunami. That ultimate feeling of shame was running amok within the heart of Heaven's Will. Huff. Lin Fan heaved out a deep breath. He had finally caught hold of that magnificent feeling. The final ultimate technique of training. He had mastered it entirely. Strong, too strong. That was a direct whip to the heart itself, with no room for resistance at all. Lin Fan looked over at Heaven's Will, who was tied up on the heavenly pillars. But, he was startled at what he saw. The initially infuriated Heaven's Will now had an extremely satisfied look on his face, as he reminisced that pleasurable sensation. Holy F***ck. Lin Fan lowered his head, unable to bear this sight directly. To think that this blood-old faggot would give off such a lewd face. That was really disgusting. Heaven's Will, do you pledge your allegiance? Lin Fan asked. I do. Heaven's Will's face was calm, without any hesitation. It was as though he had submitted to Lin Fan thoroughly. Upon hearing these words of the Heaven's Will, Namo Saint Emperor, who had already FCKED up the ground badly, gave off a completely stumped look. How could this be? To think that the Heaven's Will had submitted to this guy. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Just what sort of trickery had this kid used? Now that he had subjugated the Heaven's Will, Lin Fan chuckled. He would definitely have much use for this Heaven's Will in the future. There was no way he could let him die. After all, most people in Kangling continent were innocent. They shouldn't die for no reason just because of him. Now that he had conquered over the Heaven's Will, that was his biggest aim. Lin Fan let the Heaven's Will loose. The moment the Heaven's Will landed on the ground, he laid there crippled. Leaning there on the pillar, he was busy reminiscing the sensations from before. Lin Fan came before Heaven Queen, who was absolutely rooted with fear. Laughing coldly, he asked, Heaven Queen, have you ever considered what your outcome would be like? You can't do something as humiliating as that to me. Heaven Queen gritted her teeth. No matter what, she would never accept a humiliation as such. She had thought that a single strain of consciousness was enough. But now, she discovered that it was far from enough. What a tragedy this was. Don't worry, I won't shame you as such. You're not even worthy of me humiliating you. Stepping behind the Heaven Queen, Lin Fan commented out imposingly. This was the mighty Heaven Queen. Since when had she been trampled by others as such? With just her looks, even enemies who caught sight of her would definitely be captivated. In fact, they would even soften their tone and actions so as to please her. But to think that this man would dare to treat her as such. Was he even still a man? Heaven Queen remained silent for a moment. She raised her head, let me off. I'll be your servant or slave. Oh, Heaven Queen, I know that you're just a strain of consciousness of some powerful being in the upper world. Just what is it that would have you lower your dignity as such? Oh, But then again, with just your looks alone, it would be pretty formidable looking if I were to bring you around as a slave, wouldn't it? Lin Fan chuckled. Upon hearing these words, Heaven Queen's heart leapt with joy. Perhaps there's a chance of this playing through. She then continued, I can give you everything, including that. That, Lin Fan chuckled. Yes, that, Heaven Queen said pitifully. That humongous chest of hers that was bouncing up and down was even more horrifying. What exactly is that? Lin Fan asked once more. Lay down and serve, you can do whatever you want to me. Pooey. Lin Fan looked at Heaven Queen condescendingly, you bloody b*tch. Yours truly is a man with a wife. How dare you brazenly flirt with innocent young men under broad daylight? To think that you've even got the audacity to try break up a perfectly blissful family. Oh, you thoroughly deserve death. Even if my wife does not come and kill you, yours truly will peel you alive first. Thinking that she had a shot at life, Heaven Queen's face changed entirely as she looked at Lin Fan in disbelief. Even though it was just a strain of consciousness, her skills at seduction were still second to none. How could this man resist it? You're not a man. Heaven Queen's eyes were seething with rage. This wasn't anger over Lin Fan's decision to kill her, but the fact that he was completely ignorant to her charms. Che, even if yours truly isn't a man, yours truly can turn into a man with a single skill. Thinking back at how senior brother Meng was burnt to ashes by you has me burning with rage. Alright, yours truly shall let you experience that today. In that instant, a flame appeared on Lin Fan's palm. With a gentle flick, he tossed that flame over at the Heaven Queen. Boom, B-starred, we'll meet again. With that, Heaven Queen's body vanished from the world. HMPH, I know we'll meet again. But don't worry, each time I see you, I'll FCK you up real good. Lin Fan twitched his lips in disdain. Chapter 417, Begging Pitifully. Chapter 417, Begging Pitifully. Ding, congratulations on killing utmost celestial upper level Heaven Queen. Ding, experience points plus 2 billion feet. What, that's all the amount of experience points I get? Lin Fan twitched his mouth. He was displeased with the amount of experience points that the Heaven Queen gave out. That was an utmost celestial upper level cultivation state. But thinking back, this Heaven Queen was only a single strain of consciousness of a powerful being of the upper world. For her to have a cultivation state of an utmost celestial upper level was pretty decent to begin with. Highs. Lin Fan could not help but sigh in exasperation. He hadn't even been to the upper world, yet he had already sown some seeds of discord with two powerful beings. What a tragedy. But so what, he wasn't afraid, man. At most, he would just FCK them up, that's all. The higher the difficulty of his challenges ahead, the more excited Lin Fan got. Of course, these were just words he used to console himself. He was still pretty nervous in his heart. To think that a single strain of consciousness of the powerful being could create such a formidable foe. If he were to really end up in the upper world one day and be discovered by these powerful beings, wouldn't he die with just a single slap? Thinking of that, Lin Fan decided that he had better get his act straight. How's it, Namo Saint Emperor? Are you feeling a pleasurable sensation? Coming to the Namo Saint Emperor, Lin Fan's lips curled into a cheeky smile. But in response to Lin Fan's questions, only, piok could be heard. The Namo Saint Emperor had already given up entirely on resisting. However, he would never have himself say out the reply, not bad. In fact, the feeling's getting better. To the Namo Saint Emperor, this was a form of humiliation, an unbearable humiliation. He had never heard of a pill as such before. Lin Fan flicked his robes with his eyes fluttering, as though he was deep in thought about something. Actually, I've got no grudge to bear with you. I shouldn't kill you, Lin Fan said softly. B-starred, you didn't have a grudge, but now you've got yourself one. Namo Saint Emperor thought that the man before him had finally realized the severity of his actions, and was trying to absolve this situation as such. But no, there wasn't anything in this world that was so cheap. That's right, that's what I thought as well. Since I've already sowed this grudge, then yours truly isn't afraid of you either. Go and die. With that, Lin Fan sent down a slap that slammed the Namo Saint Emperor deep into the ground. The tremendous amount of energy that was channeled through that slap was cruising through his body indiscriminately. Bam! A loud thud. Kid, your majesty will make sure you regret this. These were the words that any villain would say at the end of their lives. But Lin Fan was already used to all this. Ding, congratulations on killing utmost celestial full cultivation being Namo Saint Emperor. Ding, experience points plus 3 billion feet. With that, the entire land turned silent. The surroundings looked desecrated like the end of the world. Other than providing experience points, these two people had no use at all. Descending their consciousness, why couldn't they have brought with them some energy grid line chains as well? To the current Lin Fan, nothing was more important than energy grid line chains. After all, he still had to summon the Heart Demon Emperor. He needed that essence blood to boost up his blood C to LVL9. Lin Fan's gaze turned towards that black-robed figure in the distance. "Who are you?" he asked. He did not know who this person was who had been standing there motionlessly all the while from the start. The black-robed man floated there motionlessly. Eventually, a hand stretched out from beneath the robes. This hand looked weird, it was both rough and feminine at the same time. The black robe danced in the skies as it finally revealed who the person beneath it was. Lin Fan threw the person a casual look, but he was stunned thereafter. What the? This person looked pretty familiar, as though Lin Fan had seen the person before. But, he couldn't remember exactly where or under what circumstances it was. This guy's power level was pretty surprising as well. To think that there would be such a being in Kangling continent as well. Greater celestial full cultivation being with 10 energy grid line chains. He was slightly stronger compared to Han Lu and Fang Han. "Do you still remember me?" The black-robed person spoke up. The voice was both feminine and masculine at the same time, pretty shocking. Lin Fan did not reply. He just observed even closer, as his brain began to tinker. This person did seem pretty familiar indeed. In fact, the aura was familiar as well. Body of yin and yang. Suddenly, Lin Fan recalled what this aura was. This was the special body type that was brought about after twisting heaven and earth changed up one's yin and yang. Lin Fan had not twisted much people other than those bandits back then. "You're Ku Shangzhe?" Lin Fan asked from the sides. Back then, he was young and childish. The reason for him to use his skills casually was also because he was playful. However, ever since he had realized the meaning of life, it had been a long time since he swapped up the genders of others. After all, most of the people Lin Fan took down didn't have any blood feud with him. There was no reason for him to change their genders for no reason. That was pretty overboard. The special body type of yin and yang was pretty strong. In fact, it could even be considered a divine body. But to others, this was definitely something that was unbearable. November LBJNN. That's right, Ku Shangzhe, who now possessed the body of yin and yang, nodded his head blankly. Lin Fan looked at Ku Shangzhe. Through the latter's eyes, he could feel the despair towards life, as well as the look of someone who had been through many things in life. He wondered just what sort of tribulations this guy had to undergo in these 2 years. But by the looks of it, it should definitely be nothing that's too great. "Are you here to seek revenge from me?" Lin Fan felt that this guy must definitely be out to seek vengeance. After all, no one in this world could tolerate something as such. If someone were to turn him from a man to a woman, he would definitely want the life of the other party. But, the other shocking thing was that this body of yin and yang was truly way too formidable. To think that it could produce such a powerful being after just 2 years. That was incredible. Ku Shangzhe did not reply as he continued walking towards Lin Fan. Each step he took caused a great amount of pressure to rise in Lin Fan's heart. Should he strike out or not? After all, he was the one who had caused this man so much misery back then. It would be quite overboard of him to deal yet another blow to this poor person. After all, this man was just a bandit back then. He didn't commit any sort of sinful crimes that would deserve such treatment. If only he could turn back time right now. Lin Fan swore that he would have never turned Ku Shangzhe and gang into a bunch of yin and yang bodies. But Lin Fan was puzzled still. Back then, there were 20 plus of them. Why was it only Ku Shangzhe who was left right now? And just then, Ku Shangzhe appeared before Lin Fan. Plopping to the ground in a thud, that calm face of his had disappeared entirely as he broke down into tears. "Oh senior, please, I beg you, please return me to who I was before. I've suffered so much in these past 2 years. The world outside is way too dangerous. Everyone took me as a freak. All I wanted to do was to be a happy bandit. I didn't want to get involved in so many things." Ku Shangzhe sobbed tragically. These past 2 years were simply way too horrifying. That mysterious fella had captured them, then forced them to train up and kill off one another. In the end, he was forced to kill all of his other junior brothers. That fella tried to devour his body as well. But thankfully, he managed to fend off against the mysterious person. But still, he was now the only one left. In the past 2 years, he had not dared to go anywhere. When he revealed his features, everyone who saw him tried to kill that weird-looking face of his. Scary. Way too scary. Senior, I've got elders at home waiting for me and no kids. I'm the only son back home, and I've yet to fulfill my duties of passing down more descendants. Please turn me back. I swear that I'll never dare to be insolent or be a bandit any longer. Ku Xiangjie prostrated before Lin Fan and sobbed while begging. Lin Fan was totally stumped. So, this guy wasn't here for vengeance. Chapter 418, Winner of Life. Chapter 418, Winner of Life. Lin Fan was feeling especially emotional right now. He stepped up and patted Ku Xiangjie's shoulders, lamenting in a deep tone, "Oh, little Ku, I can understand your pain. I truly hadn't thought things through properly back then. To think that it would result in such calamity for you." As a man, Lin Fan must naturally acknowledge his mistakes. Looking at how melancholic Ku Xiangjie was, it would be really not right of him to mock this guy. At the start, Ku Xiangjie had thought that this was doomed to be his fate for the rest of his life. However, upon catching sight of Lin Fan here, his heart thumped furiously. The thought of clashing with Lin Fan for revenge did cross his mind. However, he knocked it off quickly. Back when he was a happy bandit, he was ambitious and lustful towards a high cultivation state. However, now that he had reached the cultivation state he wanted and had been through so many things, Ku Xiangjie had truly let go of many things. The only wish he had right now was to turn back to be a true man. No, Senior, this is not your fault as well. At the start, I was indeed pretty excited about this. However, having been through so many things in life, I've thought things through. All I want now is a peaceful life to pass by. Ku Xiangjie replied with a pitiful look in his eyes. Little Ku, are you really willing to let go of your powers right now? Looking at how badly Ku Xiangjie wanted to return to his previous self, Lin Fan did feel a slight tinge of reluctance. After all, it was difficult finding powerful beings. If he could recruit this person under him, that would be a pretty decent choice. Yes, I can let go. I definitely can, Ku Xiangjie replied hurriedly. Right now, his only wish was to turn back to before. Look at how he was right now. What did they call this again? Other than that power that he possessed, he was neither male nor female. With a man's figure, he possessed the specific parts of women. This was just a tranny freak. In fact, Ku Xiangjie would even wonder at times whether he was a he or a she. Even though Lin Fan's face was deep and mysterious right now, his inner heart was in turmoil. To think that the body of yin and yang that he had created could be this powerful. In fact, this might not even be the ultimate form that someone who possessed this body could achieve. But now that the other party wished to turn back to normal, there was no way Lin Fan could refuse that. Alright then, since things had come to this, I'll turn you back then. Lin Fan replied calmly. Thank you, Senior. A smile beamed across Ku Xiangjie's face. He was simply overwhelmed with joy. Lin Fan had Ku Xiangjie stand properly. Since this fella had changed due to twisting heaven and earth, the trick should be to use twisting heaven and earth once more. Prepare yourself. After you turn back, your cultivation state will be gone and you'll become a normal human from then on. Lin Fan continued. Yes, I'm prepared. Ku Xiangjie nodded his head anxiously. He had waited for this outcome for a long time now. Before that, Lin Fan made sure to retrieve all of Ku Xiangjie's energy grid line chains. Even though there were only 10 chains, it was still worth a little something. Looking at the crotch of Ku Xiangjie, Lin Fan took in a deep breath. The atmosphere seemed pretty damn weird, gosh. He took out a glove from his storage. After all, personal hygiene was the most important to Lin Fan. Prepare. Yes, Senior, I'm totally prepared. I'm coming. Yes, Senior, please come now. Suddenly, the skies changed color as though something incredible was about to happen. Twisting heaven and earth, yin and yang switched positions as a tuft of black and white mist appeared in Lin Fan's palms. This was the ultimate meaning of the world, the energy of both yin and yang. The reason why Lin Fan could possess a power as such was all because of the skill. Boom! Within that instant, twisting heaven and earth was successfully employed. Something was changing within Ku Xiangjie's body. A tuft of mist was swirling within his body, changing it rapidly. Curling his finger, a bright light shot out from Ku Xiangjie's body. This was the unique power that was cultivated through the body of yin and yang. Normal human beings would not be able to contain this power. However, now that Ku Xiangjie's body was changing back, this power was no longer suited for his body. If this power were to remain within his body might not be able to withstand the energy and just implode from within. By the time the light dissipated, Ku Shangje had turned back into a normal human being. Senior, I've succeeded. Ku Shangje looked at his own body. Feeling that familiar yet foreign feeling of that thing in his crotch once more, he was so emotional he could cry right now. Finally, the past 2 years of being neither a man nor a woman had disappeared entirely. Yes, you're back. Lin Fan nodded his head. Twisting heaven and earth was truly a sick move. But it didn't matter. Lin Fan did learn one thing from this incident as well: not everyone in this world sought power. Now that your cultivation state is gone, you need to be careful in the world from now on. Lin Fan advised him sincerely. Ku Shangje was a bandit back then, enjoying life carefreely. However, ever since he had met with Lin Fan the devil, his life changed entirely. Now that his life had returned to him, Ku Shangje was elated beyond anything else. Yes, Senior, don't worry, I've accumulated a number of objects in these past 2 years. I believe that as long as I work hard, I'll definitely become strong again one day. Ku Shangje did not hide anything in front of Lin Fan. Even though Ku Shangje had suffered plenty in the past 2 years, with his decent cultivation state, he did manage to gather quite a number of valuable treasures. While his cultivation state was gone, he still had the treasures. There was no guarantee that he might be able to return back to that original power level with these treasures, but at least he wouldn't have issues defending himself. Looking at Ku Shangje, many thoughts were flying through Lin Fan's mind right now. This man was a winner of life. Even though he had undergone a sex change, he did have a great boost in cultivation state that brought him around to see the world. At the same time, that allowed him to collect all sorts of valuable treasures. Even though his cultivation state was gone now that he had returned to his normal body, all the experiences and wisdom were still retained in that mind of his. As long as he didn't die prematurely, Ku Shangje would definitely be a big winner of life one day. Go on, Lin Fan gestured, allowing Ku Shangje to leave. After thanking Lin Fan profusely, Ku Shangje scampered away and ran off from this place. Lin Fan came before the heavenly pillars. The 9 great sects Grand Masters, Yan Emperor, and Fang Han were leashed up on them. A series of tragic cries rang out across the skies. Wang Xiaoliu and the others, who were hiding in the sect, could not help but shiver at the sounds of these cries. November LBJNN. When the ground trembled and the skies changed colors as tilting day and night, they were filled with fear. Let me go, each and every one of them was screaming out with a look of beseech on their faces. They had not expected this to be their outcome. Let you guys go, do you really think that's possible? Lin Fan chuckled. Senior brother Lin, please let me go, your junior brother knows his mistake now. Fang Han cried out amidst tears and snot. Everyone had seen the battle that had happened with their very eyes. That was not a fight of humans anymore. That was not something they could hope to resist. Even if they were in their peak forms right now, they were definitely no match for Lin Fan. Tossing a dirty glance at Fang Han, Lin Fan chuckled once more and let Chicky out of his storage. The moment Chicky came out, he cried out loudly at the situation. However, looking into the distance, he was stunned as well. Even though he did not know what had happened, he could tell from the destruction of the entire place that sh*T must have hit the roof. Chicky, go and get me their storage rings. Lin Fan ordered. Cuckoo. Upon hearing these orders, Chicky's eyes lit up. These were the type of errands he loved the most. Seeing this bunch of people, Lin Fan knew that trash must be recycled to their fullest potential. Even though he didn't have many expectations from the items within their storage rings, the quantity should make up for the quality. Looking at these Grand Masters, they hadn't made much of an improvement in cultivation state over the past 2 years. In fact, they weren't even comparable to Ku Shangje. What trashes! But on second thought, Ku Shangje possessed the help of the yin and yang body. That speed of cultivation was not something that these guys could hope to overtake. Chapter 419, Glorious Return Home. Chapter 419, Glorious Return Home. Looking at the items inside the 11 storage rings, Lin Fan did not spot anything spectacular. Seemed like these were probably every single last bit of worth of these core FCKS. Lin Fan, let us go. If you don't, you will cause the entire Kangling continent to go into chaos. The Grand Master of Wind Sword Sect hollered. There was a deep fear within his eyes. He had not expected that even with this many people, they weren't a match for this lad. Just what sort of trials had this lad undergone? Why the hell had he turned this strong in just 2 years? This was just unbelievable. Looking at these Grand Masters, Lin Fan let out a cold laugh. Chaos or not, cut your bull. I've already made my words clear from the start. No matter who arrives, no one shall bail you guys out. Lin Fan took out the 2 tablets of his senior brothers and placed them on the ground. My 2 dearest senior brothers, you guys must watch this carefully. Your junior brother shall avenge you guys today. Looking at these tablets, Lin Fan's mind was filled with memories. Even though his cultivation state wasn't that high back then, these 2 senior brothers had been extremely caring towards him. Even though it all started with him sneaking an attack on them for the sake of his own experience points, they were simple people. Just because he crafted a sword for each of them, they were already overwhelmed with joy and forgave everything he did immediately. Where else could he find such senior brothers who could care for him as such? But everything was destroyed. Right now, the only way left for him was to become stronger so that he could continue protecting those who were important to him. However, everyone's hearts shuddered the moment they caught sight of Lin Fan's frosty gaze. They had a really bad feeling about this. From his gaze, they could sense the killing intent. Were they really going down right here today? I had a good mind about leaving you guys to torture. But I'm starting to gain a new realization. Allowing you shishts to live in this world for yet another second is in fact a form of clemency for you guys. All of you can go to hell. With a single tremendous slap, the void ripped apart as it dragged on everyone with it. Ah, boom. Flicking his robes, Lin Fan tossed all of them into the smelt. Smelt. Trash was meant to be recycled. It was best to retrieve all their energy grid line chains. Ding, congratulations on smelting. 35 energy grid line chains. What the? These guys are truly trash. Lin Fan kept all the energy grid line chains. He had 105 energy grid line chains now. This should be quite enough to start summoning the Heart Demon Emperor for some essence blood. Big bro. Wang Xiaoliu ran over from a distance. Lin Fan looked at Wang Xiaoliu and the others, thinking of the course of action he should take. What do you guys intend to do from here on forth? Lin Fan asked the masses. Everyone looked at Lin Fan and went deep into thought. I've left my hometown for a few years now. I wonder if the place is even still around. Me too. I want to head back home for a look. ... Listening to everyone, Lin Fan gathered that all of them basically just wanted to head home. It seemed as though they had lost all hope towards the path of cultivation. As long as they were even alive, they were more than glad. What about you, Xiaoliu? Lin Fan looked at Wang Xiaoliu and asked. Everything he had ever promised Wang Xiaoliu, he would definitely fulfill it. The only thing now was to see what Xiaoliu himself wanted. If Xiaoliu wanted to carry on with the path of cultivation, Lin Fan would take him back to Glory Sect. Big bro, I want to go home. I've been away for 4 to 5 years. My wife and mum are still waiting for me back home. Wang Xiaoliu had already lost all hope towards the path of martial arts. After being tormented in Chengkan sect for so many years, he was only grateful for being alive right now. He no longer wanted to carry on with this path. All he wanted was to get back home to his family. That's fine as well, let me send you guys back then. Lin Fan nodded his head. Flicking his robes, he took everyone with him into the void. Right before leaving, he took one last glance at Saint Devil Sect. This was a place he would return to one day. Once he could break through both continents, he would definitely shift Saint Devil Sect back home. After Lin Fan left with everyone else, a figure appeared in the void of that now quiet battlefield of Saint Devil Sect. This figure was evil, horrifying, and sinister. It was a type of sinister feeling different from the Grand Master of Infinite Devil Sect. It was also a different from the Yan Emperor. Yet, the aura that he emanated was way stronger than any of them. If Lin Fan were still around and caught sight of the figure, he would definitely be in for a shock. Wasn't this fella Mo Yixuan? This was one of the 2 powerful beings that Lin Fan had once robbed. In the end, he was forced into a void and was devoured by a mysterious dark abyss. In fact, Lin Fan's current faceless sky demon was stolen from this guy. Father, to think that you're already dead. But it doesn't matter. In that instant, the void rippled as Mo Yixuan left the place. Lin Fan traversed through the void while searching for the hometowns of his punching bag gang. He then let them out and returned home on their own. Given their current strength, if they had to return home from Saint Devil Sect themselves, they would probably be devoured whole by beasts along the way, or even lose their lives to bandits. Along the way, Lin Fan conversed with them. When they heard that Lin Fan had taken over the post of Saint Devil Sect's Grand Master, all of them revealed a bright beam on their faces. They knew their places, hence, none of them were even jealous in the least bit. In fact, Wang Xiaoliu was especially happy. To think that even the Grand Master would be trained in his family's technique. That alone was the pride of the Wang family. Wang Xiaoliu was all smiles along the way. That was enough to explain the amount of happiness and bliss he had in his heart. Everyone, I shall drop you guys here. From here on forth, I shall rebuild the Saint Devil sect. Once we become strong once more in the future, please come back and take a look. Lin Fan said bye to the last batch of punching bag gang members. Yes, we definitely will. Being able to leave that horrifying Chenkin sect, everyone heaved a sigh of relief. Once upon a time, they were brimming with hope to tread on the path of martial arts. However, reality had dealt all of them a tough blow. Now that they were able to rejoin with their families once more, that was the happiest thing they could ever wish for. Take all these valuables. It's time for me to send Xiaoliu back. Lin Fan had taken all these valuables from the other grandmasters, but had no use for them. After Lin Fan's figure disappeared into the void once more, everyone waved into the distance exuberantly. Actually, I do feel like returning to the sect. However, having been through all of these, I don't think I'm too cut out for this path. Me too. I know that if we return to the sect, senior brother Lin would definitely take care of us and no one would dare to bully us. However, right now I really want to head home first. Highs, let's not think about it anymore. If we ever get the chance, let's send our kids there in the future. That's right. Even if we can't make it, we must definitely make sure our kids pave a glorious path for our families. Haha. Everyone was filled with joy as they headed back towards the city, arms on one another's shoulders. The events of these past few years were something that they wouldn't forget for the rest of their life. But these years weren't wasted. No matter what, they did get to learn the titanium-grade demon body. Even though their powers might not be that high, they would have no problem defending themselves. Besides, with the amount of money that senior brother Lin had given them, they would definitely be able to start a small business or something. Life would definitely be easy and carefree. Xiaoliu, what's wrong? Looking at the nervous look on Xiaoliu's face, Lin Fan chuckled. Big bro, I've left my hometown for a really long time now. I wonder if they're still around. A look of worry streaked through Xiaoliu's eyes. He had wanted to bring glory to his ancestors. Therefore, despite the pleas of his family, he had left them to join a sect no matter what. But now that so many years had passed without a single achievement to his name, Xiaoliu was feeling some regrets. It's alright, let's go. Chapter 420. Such a great opportunity. Chapter 420. Such a great opportunity. Heaven Mountain City. This was an extremely ordinary city within Kangling continent. While it was considered standard, there was a lot of land within its boundary with extensive resources. Within Heaven Mountain City was a tall mountain. Many structures were built on this tall mountain. Most of them were grand in sight. This was the place where the rich and famous lived. The rest of the commoners were scattered down the base of the mountain. This was the exact reason for the name of the place, Heaven Mountain City. November LBJNN. Xiaoliu, do you remember where your house was? Floating in the endless void, Lin Fan looked down at this unique landscape curiously. Even though he had not gone down personally, with his current strength, he could take in the entire place thoroughly through his senses. It was evident that the ruler of the Heaven Mountain City was at the peak of the mountain below. With luck coiling all around and an auspicious purple cloud along with it, that was the most decent place in the area. In the eyes of commoners, this should be a pretty formidable character. But to Lin Fan, he was only so-so. Taking Xiaoliu as an example, his luck was immensely high right now compared to the low level it was before. And the reason for that was because he met a benefactor of his life who could change his fate. That was none other than yours truly. It's been a long time since I've returned. Even though there have been some changes, I suppose that it should still be down there at the foot of the mountain. Wang Xiaoliu's face was eager and anxious. He couldn't wait to catch the sight of his family. Looking at Wang Xiaoliu, a sense of enlightenment overwhelmed Lin Fan. Men of humble backgrounds had wishes and desires. From this day forth, he should really refrain from killing too much. But of course, if they were enemies, there was no excuse. One palm to take them down as always. Alright, let's go down and take a look then. Grabbing hold of Wang Xiaoliu, Lin Fan jumped out of the void and headed in the direction which Xiaoliu mentioned. With Lin Fan's current strength, no one could notice him at all. Therefore, even those so-called powerful beings on the mountain peak did not even realize Lin Fan's arrival. They landed. Wang Xiaoliu got pretty emotional, and at the same time, there was a look of disbelief. Big bro, I remember this place. Back when I left my hometown, this was the path that I had taken. Wang Xiaoliu commented excitedly. Lin Fan nodded his head silently. That had better be the case. Hopefully, his hopes and dreams would not end up being empty. The moment Lin Fan and Wang Xiaoliu landed on the ground, they naturally attracted the attention of commoners. However, these people refrained from communicating with them. Instead, they went into hushed whispers. They didn't know who these people were. Wang Xiaoliu had already left his hometown for a good 4 to 5 years. Therefore, he wasn't recognized by anyone naturally. Just then, Lin Fan and Wang Xiaoliu stopped in their tracks. There was a group of children who were bullying a single kid up ahead. "You're a B*****starred child. You don't even have a father." "That's right, your mum's even working at my place as a maid. If you dare to get me riled up, I'll ask my father to fire her. The next time you see us you better give us some respect. Otherwise, I'll have you looking for your teeth all over the floor." Big bro, what's wrong? Wang Xiaoliu wondered why his big bro had stopped walking. "Nothing much, just taking a look." Looking at the kid who was being bullied, Lin Fan's lips curled into a smile. "Big bro, these are common stuff after all. Back when I was a kid, I was often bullied as well, and would always return with a bruised face." Looking at the bunch of children, Wang Xiaoliu chuckled. "Alright, let's go." Looking at the bunch of children scatter, Lin Fan chuckled. "Xiaoliu, you must make sure you raise your kid up well and not let him get bullied often." "Naturally, big bro, don't worry, I'll definitely have my kid be the king of kids. But right now, I don't even know if they're around." Wang Xiaoliu's heart was thumping furiously. His face was fraught with worries as well. After all, he had already left the place for 4 to 5 years. Back then, there was only an aging mother and his wife back home. In those past years, he hadn't even come back once. He didn't know if his mother had passed away or whether his wife had remarried. Along the way back, Wang Xiaoliu had already made mental preparations. No matter the outcome, he would bear it all within his heart. As they walked, the number of people that followed behind Lin Fan and Wang Xiaoliu increased. To these curious people, they were naturally wondering what these two were here for. "Big bro, take a look, that's my place." Wang Xiaoliu pointed to a house in front excitedly. Raising his head, Lin Fan let out a long sigh. This place was pretty big indeed with a large garden yard. However, it was a little derelict. At the same time, the plaque at the front of the house was a pretty worn out. Wang's residences. Seemed like Wang Xiaoliu was right. This used to be a pretty prosperous household in the past. But it had since fallen. No wonder Wang Xiaoliu would leave his house to seek out a sect. He was probably hoping to regain his house's glory one day. "What's wrong? You're not heading in?" Wang Xiaoliu was touching the wooden doors with his hands trembling. Looking at his actions, Lin Fan smiled and asked. "Big bro, I'm nervous." Wang Xiaoliu said a little unnaturally. "What are you afraid of?" Lin Fan pushed gently and nudged Wang Xiaoliu through. Everything within looked like how he had left it to be, except that they were more tattered and worn out. Within the courtyard, a young woman was pulling onto a young child. At the same time, she was applying some sort of medicinal oil on the young child while chiding about something. This young lady looked to be in her 20s. However, perhaps it was the toll of labor on her body that she looked considerably aged than she should be. The moment Wang Xiaoliu stepped in, the young woman and her child looked at the door squarely. At the same time, the young child took up a wooden stick and glared at Wang Xiaoliu cautiously, protecting his mother in front. Silent, unusually silent. There were no words. Looking at this young woman, it was as though Wang Xiaoliu was completely stumped. Without saying anything, Lin Fan stepped out quietly. Closing the door, he stood in front of the door. Suddenly, a massive aura erupted out from within him. There was one last thing he needed to do. He needed to fulfill that promise back then. "If the day comes where I rule over this world and you're still alive, I'll definitely make sure you rise and lead a life of glory." The residence was filled with cries. At the same time, an elderly voice came along, followed by more weeping. Lin Fan let out a smile. This was indeed the perfect ending. At the point where he noticed the kid earlier on, he had already known that that was Wang Xiaoliu's child. After all, there was a mysterious connection within one's bloodlines that were connected. While ordinary people might not be able to tell, Lin Fan could. Time passed by the second and minute. The doors of the Wang residences opened up. The family of 4 walked out. Wang Xiaoliu had used the time to explain his circumstances over the past few years to his family. Knowing that Wang Xiaoliu's big bro was still waiting for him outside, his mother and wife hurried out to welcome him. As for Wang Xiaoliu, they would naturally deal with him later on. However, the moment they opened their doors, they were dumbstruck. The ruler of Heaven Mountain City had arrived. At the same time, all the leaders of the great families of Heaven Mountain City had all arrived. All of them were waiting right outside their doorsteps. Lin Fan turned around. Looking at Wang Xiaoliu, whose face was all puffy and swollen from crying, Lin Fan chuckled. At the same time, looking at the elderly woman beside him, Lin Fan cupped his fists together and greeted. Elder, I've sent Xiaoliu back home. He'll never leave his home like that ever again. Lin Fan smiled. Good, good. The elderly woman was befuddled as her speech stuttered. Xiaoliu, this is your son. What's his name? Lin Fan asked. Big bro, he's called Xiaoming. Son, hurry and call uncle. Wang Xiaoliu was almost brought to tears. He had not expected his son to be so big after coming back home. And this was definitely his son for sure. The 5-year-old Xiaoming looked at Lin Fan nervously. He then called out anxiously, you uncle. The moment Wang Xiaoming said those words, that empty luck that was floating above his head immediately skyrocketed and pierced through the heavens. Good kid, good kid. Lin Fan patted his head and smiled. Sir, may I know who you are? The ruler of Heaven Mountain City took a look at Lin Fan, his heart thumping furiously. All of them had felt the burst of aura just now. It was so strong that they didn't even have a single bit of resistance. Lin Fan looked at everyone from Heaven Mountain City present and addressed them, it doesn't matter who I am. All you need to know is that, if anyone from the Wang residences suffers even a single bit of harm from this day forth, none of you shall exist any longer. Everyone from Heaven Mountain City were shocked. Some of them were the leaders of great families in the city. Since when had they ever been threatened as such? Sir, aren't you being a little too overbearing? The ruler of Heaven Mountain City was enraged. Lin Fan ignored them completely and called up to the heavens, heavens will, come out. Boom, instantly, the void rumbled as a tremendous aura appeared up in the skies. Now that the heavens will had been completely trained up by Lin Fan, he was more obedient than anyone else. Upon hearing Lin Fan's voice, how could he not obey this call? Heavens will. Everyone from Heaven Mountain City was stunned this scene. They had not seen the heavens will before. But this aura was simply way too formidable. Vast, boundless. No one could even fight this at all. From this day forth, you shall take care of everyone in this Wang family. If anyone dares to be insolent to them, kill. Lin Fan's voice was calm. Yes, heavens will nodded his head gently. Raising his fingers gently, 2 thunderbolts shot down from the heavens, changing along the way. They landed down and formed 2 Qilin stone lions that stood on each side of the entrance of the Wang residences. These are the Heavens Will's protection, and will be able to guard against any offense. Heavens Will continued. Good. Lin Fan nodded his head, entirely disregarding all the shocked faces of everyone from Heaven Mountain City. He then turned to Wang Xiaoliu. Xiaoliu, it's time for me to go. Fight on and take care from here on forth. Big bro. Looking at Lin Fan, Wang Xiaoliu was almost touched to tears. Lin Fan patted his shoulders, we'll meet again if we have affinity in the future. Now that there was the protection of the Heavens Will, no one in this world should be able to threaten Wang Xiaoliu. His promise had not gone empty. After giving them such a great starting opportunity, if the Wang family still didn't rise to prosperity in the next 100 years or so, then there would truly be nothing that Lin Fan could do. Lin Fan then drew out a gap in the void and disappeared within. He left behind a bunch of people who stood there, dazed at all that had happened.